expecting all board members?
I don't know.
Okay, sure. So,
Yeah, sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Amityville School Board special meeting. Today's date is June 26, 2025, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. In the event of an emergency, please note the exits to where they are marked. Please silence your cell phone and please join the board in the oath of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will ask the questions, or is there any community input on the agenda?
On agenda item?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Just stand and state your name. I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Hi, Patty Peak, 86 Union Avenue. And I didn't expect that to be first, so let me third first. I wrote it all out to be easier, please bear with me, I will just read it to you. It is with regard to its considerations and recommendations regarding the recruitment and hiring policy that will be read for the second time tonight. As a community member and dedicated professional committed to the long-term success and integrity of our district, I would like to offer the following reflections on the proposed recruitment and hiring policy to be read this evening. These points are shared with the utmost respect for the board's intentions and with the goal of ensuring that our practices as a district are sustainable, equitable, and strategically sound. The first concern is unrealistic assignment of responsibilities. The policy places full responsibility for recruitment, hiring, and retention on the superintendent. While the superintendent plays a vital role in shaping and improving hiring practices, they also carry extensive operational responsibilities. Previously, these duties were supported by a human resources administrator. The removal of that position without clearly redistributing its responsibilities creates a gap, which may hinder the effectiveness and timeliness in critical hiring functions. My recommendation as a community member would be to create and/or clarify a staffing plan that will support the superintendent in these duties. If a designee is to be appointed, specify the qualifications required and the scope of their authority to ensure consistency and accountability. Number two is a lack of parameters for the designee appointment. The policy mentions that a designee may carry out the responsibilities on the superintendent's behalf. However, there are no established qualifications, limitations, or procedures outlining how that designee is selected or vetted. As superintendents do change over time, this lack of structure could lead to inconsistency or misalignment with the district's vision. My recommendation would be to establish clear criteria and expectations for any appointed designee, including qualifications, relevant HR experience, and perhaps most importantly, district familiarity. This would ensure continuity and upholds best practices across leadership transitions. Number three is vague language around recruitment and retention. The terms recruitment and retention are used broadly throughout the policy without a specific strategic framework. Effective recruitment requires proactive outreach to teaching programs, job fairs, university partnerships, and the cultivation of a district's brand that appeals to high-quality candidates. Retention depends on fostering a culture of professional growth, mentoring, and wellness support. My recommendation would be to incorporate language that articulates a multi-pronged approach to recruitment and retention, including the following: formalized partnerships with teacher retention and preparation programs, substitute mentoring programs utilizing our recent retirees and student teachers, participation in and hosting of regional, in-house, and virtual career fairs, internships and student teaching pipelines, onboarding and continued mentoring programs across the district, ongoing support for professional growth and career advancement within the district, exit interviews, and staff satisfaction surveys to inform continuous improvement. Number 4 is concerns about a community hiring committee and the composition of same. The policy encourages a hiring committee composed of equal parts community members and district staff. While stakeholder involvement adds value and transparency, it is essential that hiring decisions remain grounded in educational expertise. Community members who may not possess the professional background to assess instructional, leadership, or academic qualifications should serve in an advisory capacity rather than carry equal voting weight. My recommendation would be to maintain educational integrity by limiting community participations to 1 or 2 parent representatives. Ensure that the majority of committee members are qualified educators and/or administrators who can evaluate candidates based on relevant experience and leadership capabilities.
Excuse me, Ms. Dees.
I have one more and I'm done.
Okay, yeah, because I failed this.
Last one.
time. So just.
Application process for community member does lack structure. The interview committee application is overly informal and lacks the rigor expected in such a case. There are no selection criteria, training expectations, or mention of confidentiality agreements. My recommendation is to enhance the process by requiring brief statements of interest and relevance experience, outlining minimum expectations, and implementing a required confidentiality and ethics training program for committee members. These suggestions are not meant to criticize, but rather to contribute constructively to a policy that has real potential to support our district's long-term goals. And I thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on committee?
Yes,
So I just have to
that's fine, I won't be that long.
do the time. Go ahead.
Michaela Wolf, Amityville Teachers Association President. Relative to the same recruitment and hiring, I'm looking at the now seeking members for the district's interview selection committee. Where it says that must be a resident of the Amityville School District. Does that apply to all of those individuals who would be on the committee? Because not all staff members are from the Amityville School District, so,
I'll just take note and then we'll.
Okay.
discuss them.
thank you.
Any other comments on agenda items? Okay, so seeing none, I'm gonna go to the agenda. So as a board, do you want to go ahead and start with policy 5695 first?
Right.
Okay, so, trustee Knessler provided to the board, a policy from one school district from Franklin Square. I provided, one from Schenectady and one from Middletown. So they're here, and then we have the policy that was already in existence.
Yeah, our
So let's
policy,
go.
was offered in this
Mhm.
sample. The reason why I was looking for this one, Franklin Square, it seems a lot clearer and easier to read,
So,
right? Much different. The other ones have so much wording, over wording or whatever. I briefly looked at the ones that Lisa gave too. I think one, Lisa, one of yours is for, they do have the magnetic pouches and the other one is for the don't.
yes.
The only
Schenectady-
question I had about these were adopted at the end of 2024 before the law went into effect, so I don't know if they're revising these. Franklin Square, this is the revision.
But there may be some things.
Yeah, some parts we could pull out, sure.
Yeah, so this is something that was also Schenectady. Yeah, just pass it over. It was just sort of a thing that was on the website.
John?
So it was just, I don't have mine. So there was certain things with Schenectady and with Middletown. So the one that doesn't have any top is from Middletown. There's certain things that I do kind of feel is too wordy, but maybe I thought that there's certain aspects of that we can take along with Franklin Square and merge into our policies. And I do agree that if it's something that's shorter, distinct, that it may be addressed a little bit better. But I also kind of liked with Schenectady where they talked about the cell phone policy community approach. I know that may be wordy, but I kind of like that aspect. Is that this one here?
No, what page?
It's the first page. Yeah. we're just talking about going to more next time. I don't know whether or not it's been updated or not, but, I just kind of like some of the language that was here, and it just says, as we advance into more in the top, technology and great world, use of cell phones and other digital devices in education settings has become a topic of significant discussion. So I just kind of like the fact that as a district and school committee, the policy will take collective effort of all stakeholders, and I like the fact they talked about the students, the parents, the staff members, administrators, and the board of education in that process. So I just kind of like that we're trying to include all stakeholders about, it takes everyone to be in support of a policy. It's not just the students that are gonna be, the students gonna have the policy, but everyone's gonna have to, you know, look at this policy and work together. So I just kind of like, I like that language. And I'm not too sure if it's needed. I felt that with that one, there's no need to do we really need to, we may need to define electronic devices.
Well,
And I know it's here too, yeah,
I think they do a fine job of that.
yeah,
Um,
no, they do, I'm just saying that I'm just saying, it's just.
yeah,
Go ahead.
well, yeah, I was just gonna say, one of the things, and I don't know how my fellow board members feel, but the Franklin Square one, it says. School grounds also refers to school buses.
Well, then
I don't-
it's not field trips, but after school and before school is okay. If you read it,
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have a issue.
except to and from school.
Okay, oh, except to and from school.
Yeah.
Okay, so on school buses going to a field trip or back. Is that what they're saying?
Right, if it's a school related
Trip,
trip,
Right.
okay, what about sports?
that's school related, right?
So are you inclined to like that you
Do you
don't
want-
like
Yeah,
limiting it?
Yeah, you know what, I think that needs to be discussed a little bit. Like when you say school buses in general, that's not just coming to school, going to school, it also includes field trips, it also includes. You know, sports and things like that. You know, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. School buses doesn't really bother me. In the classroom is one thing, school buses using your personal phone doesn't really bother me.
I'm gonna guess that there's probably often a big distinction between secondary and elementary.
Mhm.
Like, the elementary, it's like, why have it at all? So let's restrict it as much as we can, but once you get to the secondary level, middle school, high school. Those kids are gonna be chomping for the bit to get on their phones at the end of the school day, and it's like a losing battle.
Well, they are allowed to be, according to the Franklin Square, it says except to and from school. But on school grounds, on school buses, and while on school field trips. Unless other conditions listed in the policy, except to and from school, so that means they can have them to and from school.
Yeah,
Right?
Using it as we
Yeah, that is-
figured out for Amityville, just like understanding why. Parents and teachers of younger children may be more inclined to restrict as much as possible, whereas parents and teachers of elder kids are inclined to give a little more. Like, I guess what's tricky about this is that the policy is, pre-K through 12. That's, a wide range of like cell phone and device usage. So
Right,
it's-
and the law is different for the grades,
Mhm.
But I
so.
think to build on Leslie's point. The exception is to and from school, so that's like leisure time to and from school. If you're on a school, so you're under, you're under the supervision of the teachers, that's considered going
And
on.
I think
school time.
athletics, so.
Yeah, you're under your coach.
But then you've gotta call your parent to pick you up, you have to,
Right, well, that also,
Right.
takes into consideration, what if you stay after school for practice?
right,
Yeah.
You're on school, you're on
It's
school,
like a gray space.
you're on
like-
school grounds,
They're becoming, more adults independent, and now you tell them that the reward for playing on a team is that you can't get your cell phone, you might lose a lot of athletes that way.
so I'm more inclined,
I'm not trying to like,
Yeah,
give them
yeah,
a cell phone, I'm like,
I get it, my opinion, I'm more inclined to make it during like the perioded school day, like, the scheduled school day. If you come for before the school for something or after school for something, I feel like that's outside of the school day. I
So
mean,
you're saying field trips, it's okay, ban on the field trips during the day and anything after. You're saying sports.
like bell to bell.
yeah, bell to bell, exactly, that's what I'm a little more.
help, and after school,
I think they should be able to
Maybe
use
define
their
the day.
phone.
why?
Well, I'm
They're
gonna,
being taught,
well, no, they shouldn't do it while they're being
Hold on a
taught.
second, hold on, okay, so this, I have a conversation.
I'm sorry.
No, go here. Finish up.
No, I mean, I don't know what you mean, after school, we have after help with the older kids and
Right,
whatever.
it's not only that, it's clubs and things like that, kids may need a ride home. or something. And, hey, can you come pick me up? Or hey, I need this for my sports team, I left it at home, can you please put it in the bag and drop it off? I think we have to have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to this.
Say there, if.
And another question
One
Megan
second,
asked,
sorry.
you're having our.
Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
think it's relevant, bell to bell, you say all day,
Or was that what you meant?
I meant like whenever the first bell is till the last bell at the end of the day.
Okay.
All day. That's what I, yeah, okay, so that's what the bell to bell means, like from the time you enter the building to the time classes are over, that's like sacred no cell time. Whatever precedes the first period or comes after the last period.
I don't think we should control that.
Right,
Well,
I have a different opinion. I would go all or nothing. Everything that's school related, because I think that we've seen it. Even the athletes in the locker rooms with videoing things that shouldn't be videoed and posted.
Mhm.
So I hear what you're saying. But I think you could go either way. So my mindset was, it's not a good thing. It shouldn't be on school grounds. It's misused. There's videoing, there's posting. It's just not a good thing. We should just try to be really
well,
strict about it. And that includes busing, that includes school dances, that includes school trips. And I think that it'd be interested to understand what other school districts are doing. I think Massapequa is just nothing, right? As an example, I know Massapequa parents right now are flipping out that their 8th graders couldn't bring their cell phones to their dance.
Mhm.
Well, it's on school grounds. So, that's, I guess, my mindset.
Well, also it says permissible use exceptions. I mean, this is the great Franklin Square one, if authorized by teacher. If authorized by teacher or coach, I mean, we can kind of put that in there. I mean, coaches are gonna get,
slow,
have to
so
get
one
used to
coach is
this too.
strict, another coach is not.
Well, that's what
There's
I'm
no
saying, it
coaching
might
and-
be something that we may still have to talk about and let them call their parents or something, I don't know.
Maybe
I,
can I just bring this up? Lisa provided this one. I forgot which one this one doesn't have a title on it. I don't know which school it is.
That's Middletown.
Okay, so this Middletown one, they broke it out. Maybe they just had a separate building. But maybe we could put paragraphs in there, pre-K to 6 or whatever it is, and 7 to 12, and just break it out, Most school districts don't permit cell phones at all in the building for young children. They don't not even allowed to bring them in.
yeah, so I have two things to bring up. Number one, if we are gonna go with, if we are gonna consider trustee Meskins no cell phone at all policy, and we have children here after school doing after school activities, then there has to be someone in the office that's gonna take a parent's phone call. So I don't know what time,
That's the other thing.
So we
and that's because numbers,
They're going by a certain.
you're busy enough.
They're-
What do you mean, like LLC, we have admins there or.
like
So.
if the only way I can get in touch with my child is to call the main office, there has to be someone there to pick up the phone.
And me
But that's my
personally,
first point. My second
Okay.
point is, it's more towards our legal, and I don't know if John, Mr. Sheehan can fill in any of this, but. The law, as you understand it, with the cell phone policy passed by Governor Hochul in New York State, is there? Are they asking for limiting cell phone use past? The school day from bell to bell, like after school, or does it really just pertain to? The school day itself, not extracurricular activities.
so as John is looking at that, and in my,
I don't think they define.
I don't think you define it, but in my opinion, I don't think we should. I think it should just be from bell to bell.
Alright,
I really don't think that we have the capability of really to enforce it after school hours. So a couple concerns that I would have is, number one, if a parent, guardian, or whatever needs to get a hold of the child, there has to be someone in that main office to receive the phone call. Once they receive the phone call, if the child is out on the field, or if the child is up in the art room, wherever the child is, that person now has to go locate the child and give them the message. So I think the purpose behind the cell phone law that was put into place was to restrict the use of the cell phone during the school day, so therefore students
Right.
would be more
Well, yeah,
attentive and
focus
effective.
and
I think-
interacting with
yeah.
other students.
So I
and
think,
things,
I
yeah.
think we should keep that as a focus, to restrict it from bell
Well-
to bell.
There have been fights after what school events at after hours, and the concern is, one of the big problems is kids videotape it, or they put it online, or they share it, and aren't we trying to mitigate that also?
Right, but also on the same token, and I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, because I'm not in the building, but my question is, did it start during the day in the building?
But
Okay,
does it matter if it happened?
No, but I'm
people
just-
are videotaping
we just
it?
kind of hear about, did the situation start during the day in the building? Was there any videotaping that occurred and then accelerated to after school and said, we're gonna meet over here to fight? What they do after school, and some of the fights that have occurred have not occurred on school grounds.
Exactly.
And I think also, some of them have, some of them have, I'm saying, but some have not. I also think, and I don't know statistics for the high school, but I think the number of fights that have definitely decreased. From last year to this year, I think we should keep our focus from bell to bell. And because after school, who's going to enforce the use or no use of the cell phone? Are you leaving it to that club, the person who's overseeing the club, are they leaving it to the coach? Who are they leaving it to ensure that the cell phone is not being utilized? If someone is after school doing something,
And I assure you,
yeah,
the policy is gonna become very, very
Yeah,
lax.
it's gonna be how
after school.
they're gonna enforce
Fine,
it.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Can we just have John answer the question?
Yeah, I think he was looking up something.
The other thing is you have to remember, there are many parents and students at the end of the day that want contact after the last bell because they are coordinating when to pick up a student. And it's just gonna be too much for office staff to take all those calls. There are a lot of parents that contact kids at the end of the day.
I mean,
I think it'll
I'm gonna
be
pick
such
you
a,
up.
if
I think
a
he's still
policy
looking.
that focused just
It's students.
bell to
It's just
bell
those-
Oh,
was
it's,
was
that's how that's.
successful, that would be such a huge change,
Mhm.
even as it doesn't
Yes.
impact all the other things.
Yeah.
That, other successful cell phone policies could help, like such as fights. But there are so many things that are wrong that you can blame on cell phones. But I think the purpose of the policy, which I support of, is just for the time of education, getting it out of the way as a distraction.
But how about if you are in after school? You know, you're in extra help and whatnot, because all the teachers have extra help in the high school.
I would just hope, personally,
So you're
at that
saying-
point,
I'm
I don't
saying,
think
and
all of
and
that-
in learning,
That's a
and
continuation of the educational environment, is what you're saying, so how do you
So that's not
apply the
happening.
policy?
well, I would hope, I think at some point you're gonna have to just, like, you can't regulate everything, you're gonna have to hope that, like, regulate what you can and enforce it, carefully. And then see what kind of trickle effect there is. If a child opts to go to extra help, you would think that they're not going to, opt to go to extra help and then goof off,
I'm
Is that crazy?
I don't know if that's.
So-
I don't know,
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on, time out, John has
So
something
this
about
actually
child
refers to the
something.
school day. Which means the entirety of every instructional day, every instructional day as required. By law, including all instructional time, non-instructional time, including but not limited to homeroom periods, lunch, recess, study halls, and passing time.
that sounds like bell to bell, though.
Alright, so that's.
that's how it's done.
Alright, so is it silent on times outside of that?
It is silent as times outside of that. There is prior case law that provides general authority for the Board of Education to prohibit the use of cell phones. You use, stuff on a rational basis, but the statute refers to school day.
So then after school, before anything outside of bell to bell, sounds like it would be at the discretion of the school board, the school district. It's our own policy that we make.
Right, so the obligation is to have a written policy prohibiting the use of internet-enabled devices by students during the school day, anywhere on school grounds. That is the legal obligation.
Anywhere on school grounds. I'm sorry, can you say that again, John?
During school.
During school.
During the school day, anywhere on school grounds.
So Dr.
So,
Talbot.
to your agenda is the NISBA sample policy. And under device access and storage, it states as required by Education Law 2803. This policy, meaning what Governor Hochul was recommending to put in place for the law. This policy prohibits student use of internet-enabled devices during the school day, including all classes, homeroom periods, lunch, recess, study halls, and passing time on school grounds, any building, structure, athletic playing field, playground, or land contained within the boundary of a school or district or BOCES facility unless under an exception such as IEP section 504 or as permitted below. I also just want to bring to your attention that Franklin Square is a pre-K through 6 school district. So their policy is applicable to the portion of education law that applies to the elementary schools only.
Well, it says K through 12. They're,
Franklin Square?
it says it right on the second page, Franklin Square K-12.
Is this the Franklin Square in
Yeah, look at
Queens?
the last page when it says annual report, if that's what their website is, Franklin Square K-12.
Yeah, I think that's a part of their email domain. But I think they service students pre-K through 6. But we can confirm.
So can I ask too, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but let me just talk out loud. This is also going to apply to. Like Apple Watches and any other watches of the sort.
Yes.
I-
I think we decide that also.
Well, that's an internet using device.
Right,
Yes.
that's why the NISBA policy, when it was presented to you, you know, with all the options, the board has discretion to decide what they want to include in that. And I think the obvious thing is just how much it's described.
Right, I mean, I saw the list from New York State of some of the items, and one of them included, I think, like a graphing calculator. Have you guys ran into that?
I thought I saw that.
A
too.
graphing calculator
That'd be an easy thing to like.
That has-
figure out.
that has internet access
I
on
was
it.
just gonna say, depends on their adjustment.
Right, so.
I mean, like, we're
do
digging.
code on a
Right.
graphic device, they're not gonna like.
I was surprised I saw it.
Bridge policy revisit next year,
Right.
I'm not,
So Apple Watches. We cannot have.
Right, so,
Okay.
so can I just summarize some of the key points that we've been talking about, so we can move this along? One of the key points that we were discussing was the time frame of this policy. If I'm hearing correctly, it's pretty much the consensus of the board to do bell to bell, am I hearing that?
Yes.
Yes.
So we do bell to bell. When it comes to.
What about, can we include in there extra help, because while you would hope that the kids would monitor themselves, but they're not, what if somebody's doing it and it's distracting the other kids?
So bell to bell and extra help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds.
Yeah, or if you wanna make it sound nice, like anything that's related to, like academic learning. You know, so that's not like clubs, that's not sports, like academic learning.
Right, anything academic related.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, I was making it as a note. In terms of devices, everyone has on the NISBA policy, some highlighted things in terms of devices. On the Franklin Square, they also have some things that are there as well. Some of it is similar in nature. And then also on Schenectady one that I gave out, is also some things there as well. There's some additional items that is there as well. So the question is, do we want to just stay with the NISBA, because the NISBA has, you can, I'm gonna read it. So NISBA has some, which is highlighted in yellow. Franklin Square has some, it's directly on the second page, as sort of bullet points. So I think we just need to decide what do we want to include in that particular paragraph.
Well, I think like AirPods, if that's a concern, things like that.
Okay, so that's
It
it.
might have your hoods up and have your top down.
Right, well, if, I guess you can put it in there, but if you don't have a device that it's feeding it from. What do you do with the AirPod?
You never know.
Well, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're better off
Especially, are they carrying them to each, you know, in their backpacks?
Right, you don't know, if it's in a backpack and you don't see it.
I think the younger grades are alright for backpacks, but I think the older grades need to have a place to store.
we haven't figured that part
No.
out.
So I
Okay.
yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet, but if it was pouches, I think the wireless earbuds still work.
Yes,
They're a
okay.
pouch,
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so that's,
I-
if we go that way,
I'm just,
we haven't
what are
gotten
you
there.
gonna, what are you gonna listen to?
I don't know how they do it, but
I don't know,
I don't know.
Call, I don't know.
Use it, I have to hook mine.
No, oh, yeah.
Coming from where?
the phone,
The one that's locked up?
Yeah.
No, but if she's saying it emits through the pouch, the pouch is in your backpack.
Oh, okay, alright, that's clever, okay.
yeah. Like, because schools have been doing this for 2 years already.
I
So they-
anticipate we're gonna have fake phones being
It's
locked
gonna
up.
be vertical.
Right,
Yes,
so
that will happen. But if,
No, you're
and if their buds, sorry, but their shots are not restricted, then
No, you're right, I agree with that, it should be.
So, can I make a recommendation? If it's okay with the board, if we, take some of the language from Schenectady. And what Nisbet has and merge it together,
Which language?
it's on the second page,
The second baby steps.
yes. So it says, this includes but not limited to, it kind of bullets out, and I think. Whatever we decide to do, and whatever policy, whatever format that we do. I just think it needs to be bulleted out, I don't think it should be written out. It needs to be
Yeah,
easy.
it has to be very easy to.
Right. Right, so whether we use this format here and merge in,
So, I know there's a. This include is not limited to, right, I have a concern about that in terms of. There being a, so this is a prohibition. Right, and so there is includes but not limited to. Is a student on notice. And as to what's prohibited, if it is broader by that language. And so with respect to just generally, if it is if it is a policy that is constitutes a prohibition. It has to be kind of like narrowly tailored, so the student.
Define.
So it's defined, so the student's on notice of what is prohibited, because sometimes language like. Includes but is not limited to, is used to broaden it without the student being on notice as to what's prohibited.
well, because we don't know it's gonna be invented in 6 months. And that broad language gives you the flexibility to be inclusive of it, and I would say, since at the end of the day, well. Crazy, I don't think we're worried about getting sued by the kids or their parents for restricting the devices, it's just trying to like. Spur,
I don't think so, but then there's discipline involved, so
we don't know that, but even that, you have to get to that part of the policy, but doesn't the law say like you're restricted with regards to what you can do discipline wise, correct?
Yeah, you can't suspend.
You are restricted, there's no out of school suspension, right, but there are consequences. Right, so in terms of, I understand you want to be forward looking and addressing. Future, right, so if it's internet connected, it's one thing, it's not internet connected, it's not, so it is. Like, the Apple Watch is a great example, it is internet connected because it goes through your phone and it goes through, but. Earbuds are not necessarily internet connected, so if your policy goes beyond and you prohibit. Non-internet connected devices that, and you have this including the language.
no, my thought
That was the
process,
question.
look. My thought process was just take some of the bulleted items that we hear, from the not the language of.
But not limited to.
Yeah, it was just to take some. of the
But do we have to take out et cetera also then?
Yeah, and I think also just, and
Whatever
whatever's
we
here,
have to revisit in a year.
right, exactly, we're gonna have to revisit it,
Yeah,
so.
we'll revisit it before.
Why can't we take it, just take out this concludes, but it's not.
Go
I
ahead,
have
Megan,
a
go ahead, Megan.
Franklin Square says this definition does not include basic cell phones, so are we not including basic cell phones? That's a question for our Board of Education.
Oh,
Where do you see that? Because you can have a flip phone that doesn't have internet. Um,
Yes.
so I think that's, we need to.
Well, that would be more the younger kids, right?
Sure.
No, I think.
It does have the capability of call.
But we don't want that, we don't want.
No, we don't want either. I don't think so. I
Or
think
receiving
it's not
telephone
traditional.
calls.
So then we just wanna clarify that it's.
All
Any
cell phones,
cell
any cell phone.
Yeah.
I mean.
Right now, it's just this
You think
internet
those
enabled.
kids are something will become power brokers?
Oh, you think people are gonna
Yes.
stay on phones?
Yes.
To make them-
They'll become the bankers of the 3rd grade.
Yeah, but what do they call them? The main thing is that they're streaming
Things like a device.
That's not true. I can ask any teacher, especially on secondary level, you're in the middle of teaching a lesson and telephones are going. And they answer the telephones. So it's not really streaming, it's receiving telephones.
I think.
You're waiting for some policy. Yeah.
So what are we gonna do, right, so?
You know what,
Maybe we should go rest.
so do we wanna include the basic cellular phone? I think the biggest challenge is this, that we're developing a policy. And we're gonna pass it out to, we're gonna give it to Dr. Talbot, and then we'll give it to the building administrators to enforce it. Which will mean the teachers and whatnot, enforce, so some of the things that I don't know, we can put in here the basic cellular phone or communication devices, not capable of internet access. And then we can get feedback, if we find that it's an issue or
It can
challenge,
always be
it's
amended.
something that we just take out.
Have the teachers been talking about this or speaking to the administration or anything? Have they had any say in any of this? Because they're the ones in the classroom.
Dr. Talbot?
Well, that was the purpose of the survey.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay,
With the
so,
survey.
but we haven't seen any of the.
Okay, so
No,
this,
the results of the survey.
Because the board voted no to distribute the.
so this is,
Oh, that's, oh my gosh.
this is the purpose, this is the purpose of our shared decision-making meetings. There should be shared decision-making meetings happening monthly in the middle school and the high school, and there should be teacher feedback, input as to everything that we're discussing. Because unless you're in that classroom,
It was.
you don't understand how this is going to roll out. Just like if a student brings their telephone to the classroom and then it's put in a pouch in the classroom, the bell rings at the end of that period, they have their phone, they are going to have access and be using those telephones during passing time. But yet we're saying there's absolutely no use during the course of the day. So this really has to be tweaked. This really has to be looked at closer. Well, those are good points that I just brought.
Alright, so let's,
Can I just say something? So I, absolutely, like it needs to get kicked around, and that's exactly why, because there was like some scrutiny as to why I thought that it was so important to have a meeting today, and it was just that, so that this draft policy could actually be built in, because we didn't make any decisions at our last combined meeting.
Yep.
So that it could get kicked around with the administration and the staff, and we had to alert the parents. And then there would be another reading or another reading, and we would get it all done before August 1st, so that it was just to really get it so that it was actually a working draft that could be commented on.
Yeah, I absolutely support that, yeah.
And to comply with.
Yeah.
It has to be done by August first.
Yeah, like we needed to have this conversation, but we weren't able to do it last time because of time constraints, so no, it's right to have this conversation.
but I think, I'm not gonna belabor the point, because we need to go on to the other one, but I think what's most important is this, is that this is something that requires really a separate meeting. And a separate sort of, sitting at a table and say, okay, here's a draft cell phone policy, all right? And as we sit at the table, have different groups so people can comment, merge the information together,
Have to.
so therefore we can move forward.
Absolutely.
Like a forum, so from this, so we can upload the draft here. And it's gonna take more time to merge it all together, I mean, not more time, but it's gonna take time to merge it. But I think this is the beginning steps, it's gonna take more time.
Wait, can I just, if I could just add a comment, the Board of Education, the authority is to create policy, that is one of our main functions. So to say we should have another meeting, like we can't do it now, that has been the problem the entire year, we run out of time, a meeting was called to go over this, this is what we should be going over. We make the decisions now, implement it in the policy, and then you have another reading, and if people wanna come and make comments on it, or whatever it is, but to say we're gonna kick it down the curb again, that has been the biggest problem of this board all year. Like,
No,
I
I
survey out.
Yes, no, I wanna, like, after this, because I know we do so much, and some people pay attention, some people don't. But is there a way to disseminate whatever draft comes out of this meeting to all the teachers and administrators and parents? To like a red flag saying that we really want you to involve on this for the next week.
So what I'm trying to say is this, is that I'm not trying to kick this policy down the road, right? So I think people need to understand that. What I'm saying is that whatever we end up with for tonight, that it will require at least 1 or 2 additional meetings, which should just be dedicated to this. Because this is the biggest topic that will be discussed. And that there will be input that will be required, that's what I'm saying, from today, I'm gonna bring us back to this particular one. We have decided bell to bell and anything academic related. We have decided that, from what I'm hearing, that, and please correct me, that in the NISBA document, there's things that's yellowed about other personal electronic devices, includes devices.
But I like this one from.
Right, but I'm gonna also say, take the stuff from Schenectady and build it.
Yeah, because they talk
So-
about wireless handheld technologies, it's almost like gaming or things like
Right.
that, your process, so I would say at least
Yes.
take some and munch it.
Right, so that's what I'm gonna say, take the stuff here, the stuff from Schenectady and merge the two. And then the other part that I heard, and please speak up or I'll go around, that we also wanna include, the definition does not include basic cellular phones or communication devices not capable of internet access.
Yeah.
Did I hear that?
Yeah.
All right, now that will go on this particular.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we're consistent on that right now.
But that would also include like walk talks.
Kids have walkie-talkies in the lab and schools.
What if a kid brings in a walkie-talkie, it's not internet,
But again, that
yeah.
kid will be like the cool kid who has the ability to communicate when no one else, that, you know.
I'm digging up loopholes.
Alright, so there will be loopholes,
Okay.
and we're gonna have to address them.
The policy.
So what can I say is, who's gonna edit the work?
I will, there'll be a conversation towards the, Alright.
But I feel like I
Yeah,
just.
it's
I
fine.
just
So
want
that's fine.
to-
I just want to make sure in the sake of time. and
Yeah, can you
getting
talk
it
about
back.
storage?
I have to say, I don't think the pouches are a good idea for several reasons. I think there's gonna be bottlenecking coming into school and leaving school, because it's gonna have to have an employee or a security guard doing this. It's gonna delay things. Then that's the first problem, and then do they have to be paid extra if it runs after the time, things like that. The second thing is the students are now gonna be in charge of their pouches. What if they forget it, what if they damage it, I feel like it's running it right out the window. So while I understand the premise of it, in the long run, I don't think it would be a good measure to have the pouches. But of course, there's obstacles with that too, you know.
Okay, so what's a viable solution?
Well, before we go to another solution, can we just speak about the pouches? Anyone have any feedback about the pouches? My understanding with the pouches is that there's some school districts that, when you come in the morning, you put the phone in the pouch and leave it wherever the container will be, and it stays there.
The phone,
The phone goes into the pouch. Some places they take the pouch with them, other places, I'm sorry, they take the whole pouch with them.
yeah, you got nervous, how did you know anybody's?
And then what happens, and then when they leave, they have to leave the pouch there, and.
But they have to unlock it, you need an
Yes,
employee to
right,
unlock it, so
exactly.
it's the bottlenecking of the
But
time.
those are things I think that we could work out, because in that way, we're not gonna be responsible for a cell phone that may be left in a cubby or. I'm thinking about the high school, and students are changing classroom, right? So you walk into the classroom, right? The teacher's gonna be responsible for getting the kids into the classroom. Then the teacher's gonna have to oversee to make sure all the cell phones are in a certain location, on whatever, certainly, I'll just say
A shoe.
like a shooter, whatever it's gonna be, that is there. And as the teacher is doing their instruction to the class, then they also have to be concerned about make sure on the way out that everyone is taking the proper cell phone and no one's taking someone else's cell phone. I think we're putting a lot back into the classroom setting, and it could be whether it's a classroom, it could be a gym, it could be orchestra, it could be whatever. That's why I think the pouch is a better idea. The magnetic pouch, so therefore it comes in, it goes in there and it stays on the student the entire time. And no one's responsible. We're gonna have glitches. And I think maybe we could talk to someone in another district, maybe who has implemented pouches, and maybe kind of hear some of the challenges they have had. And so we can minimize them.
The only problem with that is there's students that get to shut off their telephones, and now we have a classroom teacher with pouches in the classroom, telephones are still ringing, very distracting,
And they're locked away.
and they're locked away, and now they're hung on their couch. You know, unless you were in a classroom and really can picture how this is gonna roll out, it's a different perspective, but I'm telling you, that will happen.
Is
Alright,
there,
so hold on a second, Megan was going after.
Okay, thank you. I did talk to a principal that's been using pouches for 2 years and they're moving away from pouches. They said that pouches are easily tampered with and yeah, the Yonder product, if you looked at that website, easily tampered with and the pricing is just going up year after year and they're constantly replacing pouches. So they're moving away from pouches. And they were talking about, they're developing a policy with some sort of bin/lockers for the electronic devices. And remember, we're talking about not just the cell phone now, anything else that we just listed out that's being brought to the building. So that leads me to a question I was hoping I can ask John is like, is it even permissible to say just leave it in the locker? Not that I believe that they would just leave it in the locker. Is that enough to say,
It is permissible
to just say, just leave everything in the locker?
Yes.
And I'm reading the Schenectady.
That's what I was gonna
Oh,
say.
sorry.
No, I second that because with all that, and I'm sorry, before you start, I just wanted to say. With regards to bottlenecking, is going to happen. If any of you had, kids or you saw what was happening with the schools during COVID, and during COVID. The children had an app to fill out, do you feel sick today? Do you feel like you have a fever? And just remember that bottlenecking outside the middle school, outside of the high school. It took some kids, 20 minutes to get in the door. So that's going to happen if we do, if there's not a system where they can enter the building and not be at a central point to give their.
So what we do if there's broken lockers or those.
Well, here, can I read this from the Schenectady under, student responsibility? Students are responsible for the security of their personal electronic devices. They may possess devices on their person, but they must be powered off and placed in receptacles. So that's very big. I imagine almost like makeup kit for your cell phone, your AirPods, everything else. It goes in something you zipper in your backpack. And it's a little more physically removed from the person and it's on you. It's not something that's magnetized. It's not something that like involves a bottleneck, but it's just an extra barrier to inhibit the ease of the addiction of always wanting to check their phone. Because again, the kid who really wants to do it is going to, no matter what. I think it's important to not forget that there are plenty of students who want help, would probably appreciate a policy as much as the teachers would, and might make good faith effort because they're not the only ones. So that language to me, like, puts enough respect to the kids to try to like, help themselves and like, okay, we're not gonna do the pouches, you'll keep it on your person, but it truly is in your backpack, in your backpack. In the bag of the bag.
I just wanna jump in about the conversation with lockers, I don't think lockers is a bad idea, because then kids are responsible for it, these are expensive phones, and the staff's responsible for expensive phones, and then if you take it away in the office, you have somebody else's possessions. And that becomes problematic. The thing with the lockers is, I had asked for a building walkthrough last year, we did a building walkthrough. I noticed that there were lockers broken. Well, I asked the facilities director to look into it. I think when we got a report back, I think there was 43 lockers that were broken. So meanwhile, it was right before school started, like the week that school started. That's not ample time for these to be fixed for the beginning of school. So my opinion is the board would really have to do like a walkthrough now or do something to look at lockers to mitigate any problems with them so that the children are ready to go. We have to do our end and our part to ensure that everybody has one, because now 43 kids.
Right, well, a couple things, so number one, there might be enough lockers for all the children, like there might be extra lockers. That are broken, like if one's broken, we're just not gonna issue it to a student, we're gonna give them a working locker. But the second point is, do you wanna spend money on pouches that you may or may not use and replace? Or spend it on property that you own, like fix your own lockers?
I think the other thing we have to remember is this, if we're talking about utilizing lockers, right, the lockers need to be secure enough for them to be left. If that's the case, can the lockers have a separate lock place on them? Like the student brings in their own padlock to go on there, is that
Are they
possible?
locked already?
But still,
Combination.
what happens if if it's combination locks, it's probably a mechanism way to get to that locker, so I'm
Oh,
just.
we used to pop them open.
Yeah, so I'm just.
I know many kids in the middle school don't use their lockers, because it just adds time to passing. But I guess, as I think out loud, if you don't, if the only thing you need your lock for is your cell phone, you're not supposed to use it, then that really shouldn't weigh in. But I know that like, when I was in high school, everyone used their lockers all the time. My kids almost never use their lockers unless it's sports season. So it's almost like there's a generational shift away from lockers, but who knows, this could be the policy that brings lockers back into style, because that's when you finally get to check your phone again today.
You get socialized with their.
Alright,
locker
so,
games.
so what I'm hearing right now so far, the two possible options is the measure of couches and lockers. Reduce the use of the lockers.
We have
Well,
we have
Caroline-
it on the couches.
You're supposed to have a couch.
Just no, mine was whatever you've got, Ziploc bag, yeah, like a dust bag.
Yeah, in the backpack.
Yeah, just
I
in the
just
back.
kinda like,
In an ideal world, that might work.
I know,
I
but-
just see that being.
I know.
But to Caroline's point, right, if we're saying earphones or other things, a couch only fits the phone, what about everything else?
Why can't it go in the backpack?
Well, again,
Maybe they just
what
stop
if
bringing it in.
we know we're gonna have to revisit this policy. If not within a year, it's perhaps within 6 months, let's try the cheaper option, especially since, you know, Megan's saying that schools who have already tried the expensive option are moving away from it.
Well, I'm sure
Try to
there's
give them
more,
the
that's
benefit
what I'm
of the
saying,
doubt.
but I think
But-
we can get.
Can we break this out though, for like maybe like a K through 6 and 7 to 9, because the younger kids shouldn't have it, and if they do. The children are small, like a cubby with the shoes, couches or something, I feel the younger grades can do that. Without issue.
I feel like the younger grades can maybe keep it in their backpacks.
Yeah, I don't think the younger grades are an issue,
I
so,
think it's middle school and high school.
right, so
want
maybe
lockers.
we need it defined in the policy, like
Yeah.
pre-K through 6, and like 7 through 9.
So right now, in the NISBA policy, right now there, it clearly states at the elementary school level, right? And we can decide the classroom teacher storage container, the student's personal cubby, or the school office. So if we're saying that the student's personal cubby or a storage container, maybe highlight those two as possible places to store the cell phone.
I don't think those exist, personal copy.
And
But
some
at
of the low
elementary
grades.
level, they have.
No, because someone's gonna grab the wrong phone and belongs to the wrong kid.
Look, I'm just saying that.
No, I'm telling you why I don't think that will
It's
work.
not law.
So at the elementary school level, then actually cell phones are not supposed to bring them at all.
Right.
I don't think that, do they have, Dr. Tom, do they have an issue with that northeast and northwest a lot?
Not a lot, students do bring those devices to school. But this law is discouraging elementary students from bringing it at all. And if one happens to be brought to school, what would then be the storage place for those few that are discovered? But they should not be authorized to bring them,
So maybe,
according to the ban.
so maybe we leave it at that, for elementary school, that we're not gonna have them bring the cell phones, and then. If they do bring it, that there'll be a location in the main office where the cell phone will stay.
Right, I don't think the main office, I
Well,
think
they should
the
always
office.
I mean, that's part of whatever the discipline is calling the parent, and they have to come pick it up. Yeah.
I think that it
I
should
don't know if
just
that'll
be
work.
in your backpack, in your child's possession throughout the day, if they're not using it, they're not using it.
So I'm talking about, it's like, I'm talking about northeast, I'm talking about northeast.
Little ones.
I'm
Yeah,
talking about northeast and northwest, and we'll start there, and Park Avenue,
Mhm.
for those three buildings, that the cell phones. They're not allowed in school.
Right, ban it.
And if a cell phone comes to school, then. That cell phone will be taken to the main office, it's just a suggestion, take it to the main office, put it in a location that's secure and the parent or guardian is called. That's, because we don't want it, if they're not supposed to have it at all, why put it in their backpack or anything like that?
Well, don't we have some walkers in Park Avenue? I mean, if they're walkers and my kid's walking, I want my kid with a phone.
But at the end of the day.
But at the end of the day, they'll get the cell phone back.
But why not just let them keep it off in their backpack if they do? come?
We have to decide what are we gonna do, cause right now,
that's what I would like to do.
Okay, I like that too.
Off and in the background.
Yeah, I mean, we have.
I don't know, there's three of us saying that, but.
That's fine.
For me, the less hands that the school district can have,
Northeast,
We have to
northwest
say
and Park.
pre, because
Pre-K,
pre-K kids.
yeah, they should have it.
If they will, roof absolutely.
So they're allowed to bring them in.
well, they should.
Well, we're saying to
Discourage.
discourage, but if they bring it in, it has to be off and in their backpack.
I would say cell phones are not allowed. in pre-K to grade 5, that'll be my recommendation, I'm just, that'll be my only allowed to say that.
No, I don't think you could say that, because you have walkers.
No, but just kind of hear me out, cell phones are not allowed in the school during the school day. Right, just kind
You know,
of,
usage.
Right,
right,
okay.
Cell phone usage.
Well, I think you should say that it's discouraged. But if, there should be no usage, but if they are brought in, then they're often back.
Maybe our attorney can give us a
but,
little,
but if we're saying that this, if they're just, we're giving them permission, still gonna bring it in.
Well, there's two things. Cell phones, period, are discouraged. Cell phone use is prohibited.
Correct.
Okay,
That's not the same, but
Okay.
they're true.
what'd you say, cell phones discouraged?
Bringing cell phones to school is discouraged.
Well, the first paragraph covers the use, right, and that's the law. Right, that would be under the municipal policy, right, that covers the usage, right, the. Device access and storage covers, okay, if
What do
you
you-
bring it. Right, so that's why it's discouraged from bringing devices, but if you're going to bring it, say. E.g. you're a Walter.
So why don't you just specify in the case of students that want to from school?
No, but it clearly says here, and if we look at the NISBA policy. Down here, it clearly says, any elementary school level students are discouraged from bringing this device to school, that's already there.
Right.
okay,
Any device that is brought to school must be silenced and kept in.
The back,
So
for pre-K through
Yeah.
5, right?
that's good.
Yeah,
It's
that's
right
what I'm just,
here.
it's right here.
That's it.
All right, you got it.
We're gonna specify pre-K to 5.
Yeah,
That's
kept in the
silence,
backpack.
silence.
In the back. Great.
Right, now, can you almost use that same template and put 6 through 12 lockers?
Yeah. Why not?
Yes, because I don't know why the second bullet doesn't still say discourage from bringing the devices to school. Because I think it should.
But it's,
So the set number 2
Number
doesn't.
2 now, if we go to the middle school. Like, we're still discouraging them from bringing all of this stuff to school. I don't see it. It's middle school exists.
Exactly, it's too bad.
I mean, there's, I have a middle schooler that doesn't have a cell, so I like, whatever, so.
I think it's
I
better.
don't know why it can't be
Language
discouraged.
Secondary.
if we have, we use the same language that's in number 1 on the NISBA. Then we're saying that for
Just change.
middle
the
school and high school,
storage.
where is it gonna be stored?
Right, so you just have to figure out the storage for the middle school and high school, the middle school in their lockers. And then we have to ensure that every child has a locker that properly.
Right, we should,
That's on us.
right, we have to talk to our principals or facility managers. And get a good count.
Alright, so I'm gonna summarize what I've heard. So for device access and storage, for number 1, alright, that if it's brought to school. It has to be silenced and placed in their backpacks, right, that's elementary school, that's pre-K through 5.
Right.
Now. For the middle school, alright, which is 6 through 8. Same language will be at the top, at the middle school. Students are discouraged from bringing devices to school, any device that's brought to school must be silenced and kept in,
Their locker.
we're saying student lockers. It's
You
just
might as well do the high school same.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're all,
But. Right. But to your point, we have to make sure that. This happens now, like the lockers are looked at as soon as. The end of this year.
alright, so we're finished with that part of it. Everyone's in consensus, I'm just. I think exceptions and specific purposes is pretty clear with all the different devices.
I'm sorry, number 4, can we take out that language that's in parentheses? In the event of emergency, then it has parentheses as determined by the school or the district. I mean, in the event of any emergency. Number 4 on page 2.
To delete the.
Yeah, take that one.
So if the phone is silenced and in the locker. They would not know there's any emergency with phone up that's going on personally. So as determined by the school or the district.
I know, I mean, it's just like, these are exceptions where we can use it in the event of emergency, you'll find out about the emergency from. Administrators, teachers, and then once the emergency is in effect. Have something to get your phone.
I think, yeah, but the child might read that saying, oh, yeah, it's my emergency.
Well, that's what that.
What's an emergency?
How do you do that?
That's why you have.
That's ambiguous language,
Right.
that's going to be up to.
I think it's gonna be ambiguous.
Let's take a look at the other example.
Franklin Square just says in the event of an emergency. I don't see it in
All right, I'll do this right now. And get this is cell phones may be used for emergency purpose only with prior consent for the teacher, staff, and or school administration.
Well, can I just say this, say there's some chaotic, God forbid, situation in the school and everybody's scrambling. And they use their phone, I mean, they're gonna wait and for a teacher that might be whatever, protecting the classroom or whatever, can I use my phone in these emergencies that happen? A kid has to be able to get their phone, use their phone.
Right, so right now, we're just taking out that word.
Just for parentheses.
Sure. Now. I have a quick question with the cell phone policy. We talked about the students. In terms of use of the cell phone, when they can use it, when they cannot use it. Schenectady has something related to faculty and staff.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I thought that was good
Educational
because
purposes, emergency situations, doing lunch and real time cell phones. Maybe that's something that we should consider putting into this one.
Well, Lisa, if it's all right, can I ask, legal, if the law extends to that? Does it also extend to school personnel?
This is for students.
like, are we permitted to expand on it or not? Cause
I
we
don't
have
think we
another
should
school
go there.
district that has. If it's silent, does that mean it's at the discretion of the board to,
My recommendation would.
We separate.
limit to students, but
Yeah, I don't
They
think we
want to
should.
expand on it,
do a separate one?
yeah.
Yeah, and this is not to go against, the teachers or the staff or anything like that, but what's here was Schenectady. It's really nice, it just said if it's for educational purposes, then it's fine. I mean, obviously, if the teacher has a staff member has an emergency situation, then it's fine for them to utilize it. During their lunchtime and break time, they're allowed to, use the cell phone. And if anyone is in a certain type of role that requires a cell phone use, then they use the cell phone, they have
Well,
the cell phone.
yeah, can I make
So
it-
we can look at it further, once again, it's just something to think about.
I don't
think,
look at the.
yeah, I think that,
I think, yes, because I think that that's come up with, some parents' concerns too, that I'm not saying it's all, maybe it's just, a small number, but it has. Been said that, some staff's on the phone too, so it might be a good idea just to have something in place, so there's understanding from all parties.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it should be done tonight, but we are going to have to work on the alignment with the code of conduct as well. Lisa,
We're just clarifying.
I'm not saying that this should be discussed tonight, but we're going to have to tweak this code of conduct as far as consequences. And it's gotta be aligned, so
Now,
that's another project.
Interesting enough, that Franklin Square, this policy was developed in consultation with students, families, staff members, and collective bargaining representatives as required by law. We have not done that.
what is it required by law?
Yes,
So this,
consultation.
this is the beginning.
Consultations of finance.
Yeah.
So it's the beginning of it, and you will.
This is the,
So
be-
consultation.
this is the beginning of
Does
it.
this meet the criteria?
Consultation.
Why
with-
want like readings and having it be like posted multiple times, it doesn't,
Consultation is fine.
So can I just make a recommendation, we're here tonight, this is the beginning part, alright? We'll end up with the draft. then the next step that we could do, as I mentioned before, is try to, not try, but have additional meetings. Where we can invite staff, we can invite parents, and they can review it, maybe have little subgroups where they can invite feedback. So this is just the first stage. of it. So let's,
Is that, so when we, that would count as consultation? Even though it's not defined?
I would define.
Well, are you
I
saying
would-
you don't want the stakeholders to be part
No,
of
no,
this?
I just wanna understand if there is a legal requirement, that I understand what it is that will meet it. I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, so my recommendation is, it is a legal requirement and define it for yourself.
Oh, we're
Right.
gonna define it
This-
for ourselves.
Yes, this will be consultation, right? The board will go through the consultation process, the board determines what the consultation process is, and then we check the box and thing.
And that's why I brought up shared decision making meetings, because those meetings, it's parents, it's administrators, it's teachers, they bring different perspectives, and that's very important.
All right, so are we suggesting that our draft policy would go to the shared decision making meeting agenda?
so
What
what,
are your suggestions?
so right now, they're not meeting right now. Right now, they're not meeting because their school is over. So that's why we.
If you, this should have been done already.
So ladies and gentlemen, I can't have, ladies, I can't have back and forth vote in order to get this done, so, I hear everyone's point, all I'm just saying is this, is that this is the first step, we come up with a draft. We have a draft policy, I'm just stating that, then we have another 2 meetings. Which is just dedicated to the cell phone, because we started at 5:30 and we're only on 1 policy. The
We're
cell
almost
phone,
done now.
right, but the cell phone policy is gonna take it, so we can just, we have another meeting that says we're gonna be discussing the cell phone policy. We're gonna
Advertise it.
We do subgroup, whatever,
That
that's
sounds
what-
like we now have another task added to us, which is defining what consultation is and doing it all before August 1st.
I think
Is that-
we will be checking the box and being. Allowed community input, parent input, guardian input, and whatnot, allow teacher staff input on this policy. We can take the time to define consultation, but this will allow us the opportunity to do this by. Say what the board met on this night, we have a draft policy. That we're gonna review. And we're gonna meet again on this particular night, and people can provide more input and just be dedicated to this.
Alright, so.
So let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. So
We're gonna
enforcement,
set, so the forum, we're gonna set a date for.
so let's finish, let me finish the last section, enforcement consequences and report.
Oh, can I just say in this, Frank.
Not if you want to vote, I have-
It's just,
I love how
It's
clear
not-
the enforcement is, it's on page 2, if you look at it, the enforcement is. It says first offense, verbal reminder of redirection, second offense, device will be held in the main office until the end of the school day. Third offense, parent guardian will be contacted and asked to pick up the device. And repeated offenses, a plan will be developed in collaboration with the student, family, and school personnel to support compliance with the policy. I like that. It's on Franklin's Square page 2, and it's what we're coming to that.
Yeah, I like that, I support that.
It's
yes,
very clear,
I thought, I read that, so I thought it was very,
and I like that it's bullet
Thanks.
pointed, clear.
well, it's the starting.
And if I could just think that these headers, how, I just feel like Frank was like, very clear how they do the header and they're big, and it's just bullet points, it's just zero. So I just think that's so much.
All right, so it looks like right now we're, in terms of student discipline, we have to make sure that if we also look at our code of conduct, make sure that it's consistent with that.
Well,
So at this point in time, I will make this as a note.
one second, Lisa, where for student discipline, we should include this language. Because the law does say that students will not be subject to suspension solely for violating, so you'll include that.
I have just all,
Okay, this whole
Right,
section.
section. This whole, we're gonna include the entire pregnancy course.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, so that finishes the cell phone. So just to summarize, to make sure everyone has the same information, it'll be bell to bell, anything related to, anything academic related, the language is cleared up. In terms of the, devices, we're gonna use the language from the NISBA policy as well as connected policy, and we'll put in bullet points. Also, taking from the Franklin Square policy, we're gonna add the definition of basic cellular phones or communication devices not capable of internet access. In terms of storage, when we talked about device access and storage, the elementary school level, that is work is gonna have that language there, that's on it is a policy. And if it is brought to school, it'll be silenced and placed in their backpack. At the middle school and high school, the same initial language. At the elementary school level, students are discouraged from bringing devices to school. If it is brought to school, it'll be silenced and placed in their locker. Then on the second page, number 4, and then in emergency, we're removing the language that's in parentheses out of there. And then at the bottom, in terms of enforcement consequences and reporting, we're taking the language from the Franklin Square. Right, and we're gonna take that student discipline section.
Yeah, I just wanna make a couple of suggestions for the forum. This policy is supposed to be adopted by August 1st, so you would have to have a forum, you know. Whatever, however you wanna advertise it, but it should say, you know, final. You know, the board has the final decision, if the board decides that. And there needs to be enough time, if you do, it's the meeting to July 22nd, it should be before July 22nd, so you probably want, there's, you don't need another.
Right, I mean, Lisa, I mean, this is probably a lot of work to do to actually set up community forums. Would we even consider, you know, advertising that this is going to be a main topic of discussion at our next board meeting? And that would qualify reaching out to the community, because a lot of community members come anyway.
But you haven't reached out to the teachers.
I think most importantly that,
Send them-
can I just say that we started this meeting at 5:32, right? And it's now 6:42. We spent an hour on this. If it's gonna be at a board meeting, there won't be really enough time, and I think if this is what if we want community input, it will require just dedicated time. Just to really hear people's feedback and just say, and go from there. That's just my suggestion.
Why can't you do it an hour before the meeting? Like the forum take place an hour and a half before.
However we decide to do it, but I think we need to dedicate at least 2 hours to it. I really do. That's just
So I
my,
think that what we're trying to say is that we have to do it
no, I
in a
agree.
very short time frame. So just to understand. Everyone's thoughts on when we wanna squeeze it in, really.
So can I make a suggestion? Can we continue with other policies?
Right, well,
Before we-
it doesn't have to be a board,
Right.
no, so I don't necessarily,
Sorry, guys.
we're gonna get Herb out. No, but, right, and actually, I don't know, maybe there shouldn't be 4 board members there, because then that would
Right.
constitute a meeting.
Right.
So the last time. Whatever we decide to do. When there was a forum that occurred before, the board came, but we weren't a part of it. It was not a board meeting. So whatever we decide to do. Then we can do that. Well, I'm just recommending that when we get finished with everything else is on the agenda, we can make a decision about what we're.
Yeah,
gonna do.
but Lisa, I'm sorry, but it doesn't seem right to me, you can't have possibly 4 board members showing up to discuss board policies.
So, one, I said at the end of going over the other policies, we can make a decision about what we wanna do. When we did the forum for Northeast, it was not a board meeting, it was not conducted by the board, it was done by Dr. Talbot. Board members showed up, we were there, we were at a table, we just kind of walked around, but we did not participate. So we have to decide if we wanna have it as a board meeting. And if we have this board meeting, the people have to come to the mic and speak. If we want people's input, then we're not doing it, it'll be done by the superintendent and then we just attend.
Well, Lisa, do you think we should figure this out now?
I'm saying,
Yeah.
we need to figure it out, but I'm just saying, can we get through the other policies?
But we're
first?
talking about this now, so like, I feel like we should close this out and then go to the next thing. So.
Can I just make a suggestion? And if you're gonna close it out, then let's close it out and move forward. Let's not take the next 20 minutes discussing if we're gonna do a forum, if we're gonna do a board meeting, let's just make a decision about what we're gonna do. So I'll put it out this way first. Do we wanna have another board meeting? No. And have people come to the mic? And share their opinion, because that's how the board meeting will be conducted. Is that we post it up?
Why can't you do it before a board?
I'm just saying, if it's a board meeting, right, then everyone knows the process with the board meeting. Right? Or if we wanna do that, if we don't wanna do that, if we wanna do it before a board meeting, so it wouldn't be a board meeting, it'll be like a community forum regarding the policy, the cell phone policy. It will take place at 5:30 on the date, and we're gonna cover the cell phone, discuss it from this time from 5:30 to 7.
I like the forum for doing the last. Yeah. I think there were a lot of good suggestions, a lot of different people came, teachers came, teachers came, community members came.
There should be a time limit, don't you think? It should be a beginning and
Right, that's what happened the last time. We did that, yeah. I think it should be on a separate night. That we're able to do this. That's just mine.
Okay, well, fine, you wanna set up a date?
yes.
Like we have to move.
Yeah,
So-
always, right, you have to do everything
Yeah.
there.
So my question is, we have a reorg meeting on July 18th. I was asking about July 15th. For our second meeting.
Sounds good.
And then Juan had mentioned about maybe doing July 22nd, but we have to find out about everyone's availability. Can we have another meeting on regular school board meeting on July 22nd?
Originally, the board chose the second week of July for the retreat and the meeting. So that multiple weeks would not be, bombarded with meetings. That was the initial conversation. As to why that second week was chosen.
I understand, but the cell phone policy, we have to comply with, so that has to come before the a retreat. In my opinion.
It's at the purview of the board. I'm reminding you of what was said.
Right,
But
so,
I'm also saying that one of the things that we got held up on last year was that as the superintendent in terms of, that's the timeframe that you're also gonna establish some of the guidelines that will be utilized for the superintendent's evaluation. So we have to make sure that we do that in a timely fashion as well. So with that stated, if on July 15th, hypothetically, we want to make that date to do the cell phone policy meeting, then we can do that particular date, and then on July 22nd, have a regular board meeting.
that works for me.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't go back to a Wednesday, July 23rd?
That's
We've
fine.
always been doing.
That's fine, yeah. The reason that we did it on a Tuesday for the
Was
first,
that one?
well, because the reorg was on July 8th.
Yeah.
And then I was asking about moving to July 15th. So we want to say July 15th, we'll have a meeting to just discuss the cell phone policy.
And
And that is, not what we can do in a community forum, we can make it a 5:30, 6 o'clock start.
I'd like to do that.
And also, so. But within this time span, we have to know that's lockers, like, how are they all functioning, are any broken? If they are broken, what's the time frame to fix them, because now we're relying on the kids to put it in the lock. So that has to be a priority.
So I don't know if it's going to be able to be a priority because of the construction work at the middle school. And as to whether or not they'll be able to get to the lockers in a timely fashion, I would have to follow up with,
Well, can they do a walkthrough before that? I mean, they can just go walk through the seat, like what's open, what's
the
open.
construction starts on the 27th.
Okay, so we have a week to
Tomorrow.
walk, wait, tomorrow? Oh, so
So
it's Monday, so it's Monday.
But Monday.
Okay. And Al, does Al and his crew per building just see, I mean, like when we did the walkthrough, it was very visible of what was broken and not, what wasn't working.
I mean, I would expect the principal or at least the facilities administrator to know what's not functioning. Because that should be on the wish list, whether it's a top priority or not, that's up to the district to decide. But we should know what's not working.
All right, can I just make a suggestion that we've given the information to Dr. Talbot about checking out these lockers, July 15th. Will be the next meeting for the cell phone, 5:30, 6 o'clock, or 6 o'clock start.
The recommendations on the language that was used in terms of the expansion of the school day. Like you said, the school day and
Oh, and academic learning,
so it's a school day and academic learning.
and anything academic related in the
Okay,
afternoon.
so my suggestion would be after and before school activities that support or supplement academic learning, is right.
You would email it to me, right? Thank you.
That was great.
Alright, so cell phone policy is closed out.
And then, I'm sorry, Lisa, and then our next scheduled meeting is, after that would be 22nd or 23rd.
The 23rd, go back to the meeting.
Okay.
Now we're up to 9240.
I have a suggestion on this. As far as the rating rubric, we included it on the contract for professional services. I think probably the rubric should be included in the few questions. That it's consistent across the business.
That was one of my comments in the last open session. We haven't like updated that. We haven't done a second reading, right?
Right, well, I
Okay.
okay, it's policy and it's,
Oh, we
we'll
have to
do
do
for the next meeting,
We haven't.
but
July.
it was incorporated.
Excuse me.
It's gonna pull up.
So you're saying like, in addition to just saying no reading rubric, to actually define.
I think we defined the rating for that. I think it was a really good idea, so everybody's really clear on it. And it should probably be the same.
What I have a challenge with is, I have no problem with things being revised. My biggest question is this, from the policy that we have currently in existence in regards to recruitment and hiring, what aspects of it is concerning that we want to go to something like this? That's just my question.
Well, this is pulled from other districts, this policy, and less constraints on it, as far as like all the detail. In other districts, they do have community members and parents involved, more involved. It's not just union heads. Here we just have the union president's house. And it's more of a sampling where other people are involved. And it's just so we have more shared decision making, and it's not just, that, right?
So I'm just pulling up the policy that's in existence right now for recruiting and hiring, and also the regulation that's connected to it. And with that particular regulation, it does expand on other individuals that are part of that particular, the meeting, the hiring, not hiring, but the part of the process, committee, thank you. So it is well defined in terms of, and there is correct representation that's on that particular committee as well. And then there's representation that occurs from the different unions. Each union is asked to have a representative at that particular, for that committee, whoever's gonna be interviewed. So they have opportunity to provide. So if we want to expand on that particular regulation,
So generally, how much,
But this is
How many-
absorbing
how
the
many-
resolution.
people would that be? Here it's saying 8. Or union reps, and we've got quite a few.
Dr. Lane, so it's representative from every bargaining.
Right, right, 7, okay.
And and sometimes we may
Right.
have an additional person.
Have you had community members or
No, we do
No.
not have.
not the AAA?
In the past, there has been a parent
Yeah,
representative.
the end of the.
Yes. Yes.
So parents. That's,
I mean, could
It's
we have someone
9240.
from the PTA? I mean, now they're doing the PTA. That might be something
Right.
that, you know.
And
that
that's
would probably be a good
idea.
That's exactly what
as a
happened,
people, as a member.
right?
Yes,
like
a
to
member of the PTA.
I would like to see the collective bargaining representatives. to this.
Absolutely.
So can I ask, are we gonna differentiate, are we going to designate different committees and committee members for, say, hiring teachers versus hiring?
It's all in the regulation.
This is just for administration.
This is just administrative.
Right.
Yeah, whatever the district does for teacher and the other staff, this is just for administrative, hiring. And this was absorbing the regulation, right? So if we have like pages and pages of something, it just becomes more restrictive in general with policies. It's, you know, not something, if you're familiar with policies, we normally do, be more restrictive.
But I just kind of feel that what we've done with our current policy, current regulation that we have in place for hiring, we in an attempt to merge it all in, we've lost a lot of key aspects of that regulation that was put in place. If we want to look at the regulation, to modify the regulation, then I think that's a great idea. But to completely get rid of the regulation and end up with just a 1.5 page policy, including the hiring, we've lost some key important things in regards to the hiring process. In the regulation, it talks about different aspects. It talks about the cabinet, it talks about administrative, but there's different aspects that's in that regulation. I think as a board that you really need to look at the regulation. If you've already done it, we need to look at it closer, because I don't think that we need
Say
to,
what?
I don't think we need to get rid of the regulation. I
Well,
think
I'll
we need
tell
to
you why.
redefine the regulation.
If I could just jump in,
Mhm.
these are from other districts, I went through all these policies with all these other districts, other districts don't have pages and pages. And I think that that's one of the things that tied the boards of education hand, is that they're trying things where this is just more general, it talks about this for a committee. You know, do I think that a selection committee should be the parents in conjunction with the staff? Absolutely. Everybody should have a seat at the table. Everybody should have input. Do I think it should just be union presidents? I don't think so. It should be a sampling of staff from different areas, whether it's special ed, whether it's, a director, whether it's, custodial, whatever it is. But just to say that the union presidents are sitting at the table, which is my understanding what's been happening. I don't think that behooves us, that it should be everybody.
So I think, can I just say something that I think that, and I'll give it to Dr. Wade, I think what needs to be clarified. For the hiring process, it's not just union presidents that are there on these committees. It's diverse, and I'll give it to Dr. Wade, I'm sorry.
So it's the union president or their designee. So for a particular position, a union president could designate someone who's familiar with that area. So like director of PPS.
Has that happened? Because I think like we saw something with the backup material, that we recently got.
That happens sometimes.
Right,
We
so
can't make it that that's-
so we can't say that happens all,
Doesn't happen all the time, but they can,
but they can, but that doesn't mean that they do.
they can.
They can,
And
but it
according
doesn't
to the
mean that they
policy.
do.
But once again, we're changing a policy because for a hiring process that occurred. A couple times this year, that there was just union presidents that were there. So my thing is, so we're ready to throw out this entire regulation policy because of a hiring process that occurred
Well,
a couple times. My feeling is, if we wanna change something, then work on changing the regulation, modify the regulation. For different hiring process, there are parents that are on there. I know sometimes in the past, let's take the parent situation, sometimes in the past with the parents, right? Sometimes there was a concern that if it was just members from the APTC, it didn't allow for other parents who maybe
Right.
want to be on it. So you know what, we can change that. We can say, for example, that it could be, maybe there could be a group of parents that would have an interest of being involved with the interview process for certain positions. If that's the case, you have a list of names. Usually what happens with the parents is that interviews take place during the day. So we will have to find parents, and sometimes we're able to, sometimes we were not able to find parents who are off during the day or willing to take off in order to do the interview. So I'm just saying, before we throw it out.
well, I don't think it's fair to keep saying we're throwing something out. When policies are reviewed, they'll be amended and they'll be, more streamlined or to be more effective. To say we're throwing something out and multiple, like many districts use this similar policy. So to say we're just throwing something out isn't really accurate. We're amending it to streamline it to be much less restrictive so that there's more of oversight onto this and there's more diversity of who's going to be on this. I know that I've been on selection committees for, I don't know, 15 years I've been on them. I was on PTA and there were times I wasn't on a PTA, so it wasn't just restricted to PTA. This talks about having an application sent to staff and to parents to say who's interested. It could go to anybody, it could go out on the website, it could be sent out, you know, with a blast email, it could go to staff. You might get interest from other people that might not normally get selected if they're not in the fold.
Are you worried, Lisa, that there's something missing from here that's included in the original policy?
Yes.
What are you worried?
So what I'm worried about is the fact that, this one here with the regulation provides more details. This to me is too generic. So we just have a difference of opinion.
That's my
So-
question though. What-
So this one,
Feel
this
like
one,
this needs.
this one goes, this one is more defined in the different sections that are here, that are here.
I think it's very, very long.
Right,
It's
but,
like-
but so what is wrong with something being pages long?
Because it's
you
more
lose people.
restrictive.
But how do you lose people?
It's
How do you-
kind of like the cell phone policy, if we try too hard to define what needs to be like figured out, then suddenly the policy is meaningless. And then without like a policy that actually has teeth or like parameters, you're left to whatever people wanna do on their own. I think, you know, a streamlined policy that's like easy to digest is easy to honor. I think something that's pages and pages that no one even knows what it is easy to disregard.
I think there's two things, there's two things, there's an existing 9240 policy, alrighty? That, and then there's a 9240 R,
Yeah, I
right?
see.
So I think that
I read both.
if we're looking at 9240,
Streamlines them both.
and I just don't feel that we need to. I don't mind modifying the regulation, I don't mind modifying the hiring policy that's here in 9240, but I don't wanna.
Well, let's go around the table and see
Right,
how.
so that's just my feeling.
So I'm still unclear about what this is missing that you would like to see in it. That's what I'm not missing.
Pulling up right now.
And can I say one other thing that jumped out at me? So you know, you have to be an equal opportunity employer, obviously, you know, and one of the things that jumps out to me in the regulation is it said, it talked about. Hold on a second, let me see, if I'm trying to pull it up on my phone, sorry, everybody. It just said. Oh, gosh, this is one, hold on, I have to figure out where this is. It was talking about all of these, okay, so it says the district actively seeks to attract qualified minority candidates to promote diversity. The district sends postings to organizations that specialize in minority recruitment, including but not limited to NEMNET, historical black colleges, universities, Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, etc. In addition, the district participates in diversity hiring affairs. So here's the thing. All you have to say is that we comply with the federal law and we're an equal opportunity employer, right? So what happens to that? I'll tell you, as a white person, I would be like, if we have all the same candidates, you're gonna pick me last. So I think that just to say that we comply with the law and that we're equal opportunity, that's more welcoming to everybody who applies.
And I think that that's unfortunate that you have your, well, that's your opinion on it, on that, and I mean, and everyone has a different opinion. I think that it's important to have something in here about promoting diversity for our district. And does it, if there's two qualified candidates for a position, then the decision will be made. The qualified candidates become four. If one's black, one's white, one's Spanish, one's Asian, whatever their ethnicity is or whatever. Then the decision will be made if they're coming for a cabinet position, they're gonna come
But
before us
Lisa,
and
we
we're gonna make a
can't, you
decision.
can't hire
So-
based on skin color. or-
I did not say
or-
federal.
So I'm just saying.
I didn't say that.
I was just saying, to say that we follow federal law,
Well, what happens if federal law changes?
so well.
All we're saying, not real, all we're saying is that we're promoting diversity.
But it
And that's it.
lists all the different
Well, what's wrong with
laws.
this thing?
Well, I just told you from a different point of view.
Right, and I'm just saying to you from
So-
another point of view that I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So your point's more valid than mine?
No, no.
Okay, so I'm
So
getting.
I'm saying we each have a different perspective,
Okay.
right?
So maybe we should go around and see if we have enough votes to move forward with this.
I just think that this requires more review. I don't think that we should jump to
But let's
saying
hear
that.
it now.
Okay, then
That's just what we keep saying, next time, we're
Yeah,
here
but you know
now
what,
to do this.
but you know what, Wendy, you're trying to. This is my perspective, I'm not gonna say you, what my concern is, as a board, as we're sitting here right now, and we're discussing this. Okay, that we're discussing this particular policy, but we see that there's still things that we're not all in agreement on, maybe there's 4 people who are in agreement on this. But my feeling is this, is that normally what would happen is that it comes back to the policy committee would meet. We put in the changes that was recommended and we bring it back to board. Well, here we are having a board meeting discussing this, and I think it requires more of a discussion.
Hold on a second,
No.
wait a second, this is a recommendation from the policy committee, but let me say this. The policy committee makes a recommendation, it's not any action, the policy committee doesn't take action. The Board of Education decides on policies. This doesn't go back to the policy committee, and the policy committee go, we wanna do this, this, and this. The Board of Education, it's been recommended, makes the decisions, incorporates it, and then it gets voted on. It doesn't go back and say, no, we're gonna decide for you, the entire Board of Education decides. That's
So
what I-
Wendy, I think you misunderstood my words. I was not stating that the policy committee makes a decision on this. I was just saying that what has happened in the past, if there were changes that occurred from a meeting, all the information was merged into that particular policy. It was distributed back out, to the board, right? The board would have an opportunity to look at it. Sometimes the policy committee would get back together again, make sure they had all the points on that particular policy, right? And then if there was nothing, then it comes back on the.
But the policies,
So,
the
so I'm
policies
just
would be
saying.
made, I'm
I'm
sorry, wait.
No, but I'm not finished, but I'm just stating that, because you're saying that, like, I don't understand, I do understand how the policy process works. I do understand that the policy committee does not make the decision. I do understand that it comes back to the board to make that decision in terms of the policy. So I'm just sharing my perspective. If we want to go around the table, and if people want to go ahead and make this, and make a decision on this, then that's everyone's decision, so I will move it along. So, doesn't make, I don't care who wants to speak up next in terms of, I guess you're saying
I'll go first.
that, and I'll bring up my
This
point.
is our second reading of this policy, correct? Okay, so after the first reading, I went back, I took notes if there was, or when we first received it, if I had points I wanted to make. I made them, ideally at the last meeting, or maybe if they were minor editorial edits, we emailed them, there's a typo here. So I already did that, so I am fine with this policy as is, I feel like it's inclusive, comprehensive, and straightforward, there's nothing else I feel like I need to add. So I'm happy with this policy.
Okay,
And I
Megan,
haven't
you're
heard anything specific that I felt that anyone else would to add.
My thoughts, okay, so this again is the second reading, I am interested in expanding the interview selection committee. I think I was hoping that we would be having more of a robust conversation about that in particular, as opposed to. The different versions of the document, since this is the version we were reviewing. That, I heard. a Community member talk about. Defining qualifications for designee, and, I was hoping to expand on that, because really, we're hiring. We're hiring right now, and we're going into our reorg meeting in 2 weeks, and that would be the time to identify if we're going to have community members as part of an interview selection committee for the school year. So that, to me, made this more of a time-sensitive policy to prioritize and discuss and modify to be more inclusive on the selection committee. And again, I'm talking about administrative positions. I'm not, because this other one on the website is talking about teacher positions. So I'm talking about this version in front of us is talking about the administrative positions.
Or what's the next? Go ahead.
I'll jump in. I really think that the employee should be designated by the collective bargaining unit heads. I think that just leaving a selection of employees up to the superintendent. You could start, look at equity. I've seen it in the past where superintendents, choose their favorite employees to be on a interview selection committee, so I think it's really important for the bargaining units to make those decisions as to which employees should be on the committee. As far as expanding community input, I understand, and that's fine. However, I don't think that the selection committee should be made up of the majority of community people. The internal people know what's necessary, what they're looking for. I think that the average parent has no experience in selecting candidates. And I think it's really important to keep the majority of the internal people to make choices around candidates. Any outsiders that have
Specified.
it's
It's
just
equal parts,
no
right?
experience with interviewing, they don't know what to look for.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, let everyone, please, let everyone have their opinion.
Right, but this does say equal parts, right? Equal parts, community members and employees.
It doesn't
right?
say
So
the superintendent appoints, it says the board does, so the board does.
So equal parts would be 4 and 4, you mean? You want only 8 committee members?
well,
now-
that's the situation.
You have 7 unions. These union heads were voted in by their, by their teachers, by their staff, by their, there should be no, reason why they could not be part. I don't understand. Having 1 or 2 parents, fine, I don't see that parents, community members, it doesn't have to be a parent. And if you wanna do this application, that's fine, but I think a majority of should be staff members, definitely, without a doubt.
And I'm just gonna-
Union heads,
I just
you
wanna-
know,
Jump in, there's a lot of lingo in the educational community. You might sit there and decide to ask a question about the Danielson rubric or curriculum. These are not things known by parents. I mean, yes, parent representation is important. However, there is much more knowledge that goes into interviewing and selecting beyond that.
Alright, so a couple things on my end here. I agree that the average parent might not understand rubrics and things like that, but I also understand that we have a vast majority of retired teachers and retired administrators that live right here in Amityville, that I know that we can fill at least 4 positions for,
There's no guarantee that they would be interested in doing it.
but they may want to,
You don't know.
and that's someone that would understand the rubric, right? So,
But education constantly changes. You could have someone who's retired 6 years ago. It's an evolving process, education.
so they wouldn't know what to do.
It's not that they wouldn't know what to do, but when you're talking about specific things in an
Okay, all right.
interview, ask
All right.
exactly,
be a community
They might-
member application.
So that's.
Right,
that's
right.
what I'm
That's
saying.
right.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, like, that would be a community member, and that would be up to the board to decide
But I don't
if this
think it's
person is
4
appropriate.
and 4, it
The
should
board is
be
gonna
1 or 2.
decide at the end of the day.
Or
But
is
can I,
it
can I,
seven?
can I just
Sorry,
make it,
I thought-
can I just have a question,
I'm
I
sorry.
have a question for you,
Uh-huh.
and Megan, you can go.
Who wants
We're,
to talk about?
go ahead, Juan, because everyone else is.
Juan
talking, so
is
go ahead,
finished.
Juan, go ahead, Juan.
Okay, I mean, so listen, I think that's a good perspective. To also, to have, we can't have this only parents or community members, that wouldn't work, of course, we need to have individuals that know the school and know education and things like that. So I think it could be a good mix. My next question is, how did we arrive at 8? I mean, usually you have odd numbers for committees.
Well, just said equal parts. I mean, this is a review for the
Okay.
board. The board can decide what they want.
I mean, even school boards, they're odd numbers. Is there a particular reason how we arrived or suggested 8?
It just, that's,
Okay.
just for the board review.
Right.
And the
So-
current committees that you have, Dr. Wade, like how many people are there?
You have 8?
Yeah.
Every unit and the.
And one more.
Okay, and you never have like a tie or a close call?
We could be.
Right,
Yeah.
that's why you don't do even numbers.
So would it be crazy to have like 9?
No, that's not
Just go
crazy.
up, then, because not is every.
Well, if you have as a parent, then it would be.
Well, we wanna have it close
Is
equal
always
parts.
every bargaining unit that takes in every interview, is that?
No.
Okay,
So-
so
For the
there's
most
seven,
part, they do sell or designate the unit that. So
so,
it could be 9 if you had a parent, that would make it number.
oh, but, okay, so
With
let me
three or
clarify the
five.
question, it's the head of the bargaining unit or their designated always. So there's never a unit that's not represented in the committee.
There are times they're not
There's
represented,
times they're not represented.
because they can't send
They
somebody.
can't send someone.
Okay, but that's rare.
Yeah, that's right, that
Okay.
is right.
So. So then if you want to have, more than one community member and maintain that representation, it's gonna be a very big committee. I'm talking like 11, 13.
If you could do
That's-
equal
that's-
parts, you're
do
talking
equal
14,
parts.
15.
That's.
Well, maybe it
that's a lot.
doesn't need to be
It doesn't have to be
equal, but like
equal.
more, like
That's.
one parent with like, a bunch of other insiders, that person might not feel like their perspective is welcome. They may not know the language and just clam up because they're in a room full of professionals speaking the language they don't understand. And yet they'll still have valuable input, so that's why I think it would be important, even if they're not equal parts or a majority, to have more than one or two parents in a room with 8. I'm sorry.
So can I, I'm
I
sorry,
have one, I
wait a second,
have one more
okay,
question, Lisa.
what about Carolyn, done, Carolyn?
I think I made my point, more than one, going to be 8 employees on the committee.
So I just have one more
And
question.
then I wanna say something.
Right, and this is just fact finding a little bit. Just so we know, and this might be a question, Dr. Talbot for Dr. Waite. Can we just name the 7 unions that have a hand in making a decision in who's going to be an administrator? I don't know, I would like to know,
So AAA,
right,
ATA, security,
security,
CSEA, CSEA 2. Nurses,
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot, but can you elaborate a little bit? Who is, S,
CSE,
yeah, yeah,
custodial,
and what about 2?
that would be monitors, TAs, 1-to-1 aides.
Right, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but someone could even argue that I'm not sure if the custodians or TAs know the reading rubric.
So can I just ask a question?
Well, custodian unit might not.
No, but they bring other things.
Well, this policy that we're referring to, if I'm understanding correctly, we're not talking about teachers, we're talking about administrators.
Right.
Alright, and up, so we're talking about administrators, like building administrators, principal, assistant principal, dean of students. And then we're talking about the cabinet, those are the individuals that we're talking about, right? So. That's what we're talking about, so finish your thing and then go ahead, Juan.
I just wanted to
So-
know which units.
I think only 6 were
Decide.
named, and it's a 6, it's not
Article, ACEs.
So there's a couple, there's a couple things that this is just my perspective, right?
So,
With this, one of the things with this particular regulation, right? That when it comes to having representation from each of the bargaining units, right? If, for example, you're looking for a principal, let's say at the high school, right? You have representation from each of those bargaining units at the high school who'll be working with that particular administrator if that person is hired. So let's just say there's 8 bargaining units, so they each send a representative. If we're saying that we now want to have parents involved, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that in terms of having parents involved. But when we have parents involved, we need a parent who's at the high school who should be involved. So instead of selecting people to be overall on all the hiring committees, right? Don't be done. I would say that you're looking for parents for the high school, looking for parents for the middle school and elementary. You see what I'm saying? Because if you're looking for parents' voice, right, whether they're part of the APTC, for right now, that's what it's called. That way we have diversity of parents that can be involved. Maybe you're a parent that cannot be actively involved with APTC, but maybe you're a parent that would like to be part of the process for hiring, right? So then we can get parents that we can send out, hey, we're looking for parents who are gonna be part of the hiring. Maybe there could be some type of I'm not gonna say mentorship, but training or something for the parents to say that if you're called in to do, if you're called in, I'm sure you probably already do it, this will be your role and responsibility as a parent for this particular position. So therefore, when a parent is called in, they know what they're gonna be doing for that position, whatever that position may be. So I'm okay with a parent member being okay. I'm okay if we want a community member, one community member to be involved. All right, I'm okay with that. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we should throw out a bargaining unit from being part of the process.
No, I didn't say that.
Wait, I'm sorry, can I just jump in a second? Nobody said we're throwing anybody out of anything, because we are looking for representation. I will say, I represent
So just
that I-
clarify the bargaining units, what?
Well, you just said there's 6 of them, so people can, 7 of them, I'm sorry. So the sample application is you're sending it out, an email to all staff can reply back and the board chooses, right? The other thing that I wanna say is,
Why do we choose? Why do we?
well, if I could just, finish.
Committee reappoint.
If I could just finish,
Yeah.
if I could just finish.
Yeah.
I find it extremely insulting to people to say, they don't know, they're not smart enough, they don't know these
No
things.
one's
But
gonna
it's-
say that.
it's
No
not-
one's saying that.
They don't know the rubric. So let me, when there's an administrator, there's a principal, a parent's perspective is gonna be very different than a staff's perspective. They're gonna look for different things. A community member is gonna look for different things, and a finance person and an HR person, the things that they might say. So it's all about giving diversity of thought and diversity of opinion when you're interviewing. Nobody has to be pigeonholed into knowing a specific rubric or not. These people come with their own mindset of what they're looking for. To say that somebody's disqualified because they don't have an educational background is not fair. This happens all the time in districts where community members and parents are involved. And it's like, it's just concerning that we'll have one parent or maybe 2. It's not really fair, right? So this is a district that's funded by the taxpayers, and they should have an equal voice in that.
And it does not happen all the time.
So my thing, only thing I'm just
No, it
stating is
doesn't,
this.
Wendy.
Ladies, please, we're only on policy number 2. All I'm just saying is this, is that I'm okay with more parents being on, but I don't want one parent or 2 parents or 3 parents, right, just to be the ones. I'm stating like there should be parents from each building that are selected to be on the hiring process. So whether it's 2 to 3 parents per each building, because if you're hiring, like say, an administrator. Yeah, so let me just, hold on.
Go ahead.
But if you're hiring an administrator for that building, it should be the parents from that building that are on that committee. If we're looking for a cabinet person, then you can say from each of the buildings, who wants to be part of that committee? You see what I'm saying? So I don't wanna say 3 parents and that's it. That's just my concern.
So Lisa, would this satisfy you if we've already established that there are 7 bargaining units? That they were there, we operate 5 buildings. So that's 5 parents. And then you also need some community members, I think, if you wanna round it out, maybe 2 community members that have administrative or school experience.
They don't have to, so
They don't have to, but it
I
kind of,
think that's really not fair to say they have to have it.
No, they don't
People
have-
have life experiences, HR is in every
yeah.
corporation, if people have a job, people know what HR is.
I just think that there would be some
Yeah, go ahead.
retired administrators and teachers that still live in Amityville that would still like to contribute to.
Same thing, then it's not really about parents and community members, because then you're just stacking before any basis.
Yeah, go ahead.
Educational people that are no longer in a union or no longer receiving a paycheck.
Right.
But they're still receiving a paycheck.
And
And there is a value to that, absolutely.
Well, look,
Value.
So, alright, so look, that was my
That's what I'm
question,
trying to
would
say.
that satisfy you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I already said my opinion. My opinion is that there should be at least 2 to 3 parents from each building that is selected to be part of the process.
Well, that
How
would,
about community?
if there's 2 from
And-
each building,
and
that's
just-
10.
No,
Can I
no,
just- can I
go ahead,
jump in?
Megan.
Okay.
Then I can. finish.
So
Alright, I'm
I
not.
don't necessarily feel as though it has to be specific parent tied to specific building. Parents grow through the district, parents have students in different buildings at the same time, so I don't necessarily feel like we have to do that suggestion. And I see, I've heard, you know, a desire to just keep it not equal parts, so could we just say 7, you know, the 7 representatives from the unions and 5 community members, and again, what I'm trying, like, what I would love to see us do is just agree to get the application out to, you know, see if there's even 5 community members that would even wanna do this. So we're sitting here like, oh, 5, 10, 7, like, it's like, let's see what sort of response we get.
I think 5 is too much.
So
That's my.
So in my, this is just, this, and I've already given my opinion, I'm not trying to be repetitive. So you already know my perspective. I think it's, and I think it's very different, and so Megan, we have a difference of opinion. I think it's very different to have a parent who has a kid in pre-K. And that you're asking to sit at, you're asking them to sit on a committee to hire an administrator at the high school level. Right, so they've been out of high school for the last 10 years, so 15 years, so that's why I just said, if you're hiring an administrator for a particular building, it'll be nice to have a parent that has a child in that building, that's my perspective. So I'm not changing that perspective, and then it doesn't mean that you have 6 you don't have all 3 on the committee, all you're saying, if you have 2 to 3 parents for each building, and if you're going for an administrator of that building, then you can say we need 1 parent to be on that committee.
Why are we
Not-
only saying one?
I'm just,
No,
It's like a
Point, we're talking about having, like, forming 6 committees.
no,
Well, 1 per building, and then 1 for central admin.
no,
How else are you gonna, like,
No.
what,
it does sound a little
no,
complicated
all
to say.
I'm saying is that we already have 7 union members, okay, that will provide representation. If we're hiring for a building, for a building administrator. Okay? If it's a high school, we selected hypothetically 3 parents. Okay? You call them up and say, we're gonna be hiring, or we're gonna be interviewing a building administrator for the high school. Okay? We need 1 parent to be part of that interview process. Are you available to interview the candidates?
you keep
Well,
saying,
that-
you're saying 1 now.
Why are you saying one?
I really don't care, I'm just.
But I feel like you're trying to, it's really like
No, I'm
coming
not try-
across, like
no.
the way I'm hearing it is like, we're trying to cut the parents out of it.
No, I'm not trying to do that.
By saying only 1 or 2, then 7 of them, it's really not giving the parents and the community members.
That's fine, I don't care, I was just making a statement, I was just saying that we hypothetically, we could have 1. So if we don't wanna have 1, we can have 2, we can have 3 parents on the committee, I mean, for that interview, it doesn't make a difference to me. And then you can also have community members that are part of it, so let's just.
Yeah,
This is,
Let's just go around the table.
I just,
go ahead.
on the first page, the last. It's in the not your policy that's on the current website, is the new policy.
This is the first thing I-
So I just, this here is that the board is delegating the superintendent, it's. Point.
Oh, so we should take that out?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so take out the last sentence?
Yes.
Which, you talking about which part? During the whole
Or
thing?
use the first page.
Right.
First page lesson. Starts.
So what are we doing?
Go around the table.
You already know my opinion, so.
So could we just try to develop an application in the meantime? while-
We haven't decided we haven't decided what we're doing. We haven't decided how many people want us on the committee. And to me,
So we can
that,
just go around and ask each
that's
question.
what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, that
So
we're
start
gonna
with the
ask.
number of committee members.
That's what I'm trying
Alright,
to
I'll go
ask.
first again. I propose 11, says it's 7 plus 1. Central assistant superintendent, okay, so 8, that we've always had, plus 3 community members.
No, superintendent is not part of the original.
No, assistant to. So, that's Caroline, anyone else wanna add, jump in?
I still think it should be equal part.
Anyone else?
I'm in agreement.
Anyone else?
I'm union and two parents, two.
Yep. I'm fine with, two on, right. Collective bargaining unit representation, so that would be 7, 2 parents, 1 community member, and of course the assistant superintendent.
This is lovely, yeah.
That's plus 11.
That-
Right, so that's what I'm saying.
Megan,
Not that I'm repeating you, that's what I'm saying.
Megan.
Good.
Megan,
I hear you, I apologize, I said +5, so. I said that before,
it was 7 plus.
plus 5 community members, and I'm not defining them as parent or community member, just 5 community members. And I think that if we just be consistent, that this is your committee for any position over the duration of the year, rather than try to say, let's pull somebody for this, and, I mean. It seems like, yeah, to just let that be the selection committee, and I would think that we would ask them a couple of things, like, it's just like when we ask for people to be on the budget committee. You know, why are you expressing interest? You know,
So we're
what's
making,
your professional background, like, just to get something back from as to why you're interested in participating.
so right now we have 11. 11, 11. 11,
Well, 2 of us had 11, one.
I said equal parts.
equal parts,
16.
16, what were
I'll
you?
go for 11. Not 16.
Alright, I'll compromise, I'll go with 11.
Me, I'm not, I don't support any, I think we should,
No.
we should have more representation.
No compromise
We have one, yeah.
Alright.
What about 8 plus 5? I would go 8 plus 5, then. I think the community has to have more of a voice, I think the community doesn't have enough of a voice.
What did you pause to make?
10 there.
What, I was voting for the 7 representing the 1 assist, that's 8.
Plus.
Then I'm looking at, see, I'm still on representation, if we're doing building administrators, okay, then I'm still at that. Like 3 parents, and I'm okay, we want 2 community members. Whatever, so
So
that's
you're
fine.
okay with that, a committee of 13, wait,
Thirteen.
13.
Yeah,
Correct. You're okay with a committee of 13, provided it's different for each building.
If you're going for a building administrator, if you're going for, and I'm okay with, yeah, I'll go for 11, but I think it should be 2 parents and 1 community person. If we're gonna go with 11, 2 parents, 1 community person, but when we're doing buildings, I think we're doing building administrator, I think it should be 10 for that, but that's just my perspective on it.
Can we decide that
And
later?
then,
See
and
what
then
we
if we're
get
going for a
first.
cabinet position, then.
Lisa,
it's all free.
could we put it out there and see what we get first? I mean, we may not get any pre-K or we may not get any, so.
And I think the other part too is this, is that we're making this a board committee.
Committee is appointing, yeah.
It's not a
I
board
think,
committee.
yeah, where the board isn't on
appointing.
it, we're just appointing, maybe doing a reorg, we're appointing the people for the year.
Right, that's something, what I'm stating is that we're making this, when I say board committee, I need to be clear. We're making this a committee that will be appointed at the reorganization meeting.
Yes.
Mhm.
We will not have enough time.
Well,
Put
we're
this
gonna
out.
have, we're gonna have a cell phone.
No, I'm talking about,
We have
we,
time to
we,
cell
we have to establish some qualifications for people to apply. We have to,
Can I say one thing
Are we
about
gonna-
that with the qualifications?
are we gonna interview them? Are we just gonna how these people gonna be selected? Who's gonna select the people that are gonna be on this hiring committee?
This is example here.
Yeah, it's just an example, but one thing about qualifications that keeps coming
No, but
up.
I'm just saying, who's gonna select them? What, I
The
don't.
board is, the board's gonna review it.
The board is just gonna review everything that's submitted, and then we're gonna make a decision about who's gonna be on.
Who's gonna be on?
Can I just make one other point, because, this is bothering me, represent my taxpayers and kids and everything, but. To say that somebody has to be, there has to be specific qualifications, that's literally to be on this Board of Education, you don't have to have qualifications. You have to be 18, read, US citizen living up to 6 months, so I almost feel like it's very elitist to almost look down on people, I mean, and you might not mean it that way, but it is coming across that way,
That's not it.
so,
No.
yes, I mean,
Well,
I just suggested like some questions to garner the background, of the
that could
applicant.
be amended,
That's,
certainly.
But
You know.
I think when I think about qualifications, a qualification for example, I'm thinking about someone 18 years of age, someone who lives in our district. Some, something like, that's what I'm talking about, that when I'm talking about qualifications. And my preference would be for someone maybe who has kids in the district, right? The preference could be something like that, because it's someone that may be familiar with the district. So I'm just saying, when I look at qualifications, I'm not saying someone has to have a bachelor's degree, someone has a I'm not talking about that, someone has to have educational background, but just like when we did the budget advisory committee, there were certain things that we look for, there's certain things that we put down for the budget advisory committee, so that's, when we talk about qualifications, that's how I look at it.
But we appointed people that applied. We appointed people that applied, not everybody had kids in the district,
No, but
and there were
we-
some really good comments. I
But
just feel like it's really, we're
we gave
excluding some-
guidelines, we gave guidelines.
So we're excluding.
We
we're
gave guidelines, I'm
excluding
just
people, And I don't really love how that's coming across.
This is,
Yeah.
behind, it's,
So what did we decide on? I don't know that we came to a conclusion.
I don't know
What
what
is
you
it?
said on
Is
this.
it 8+5? What is this? What
I have
are
no
we
idea.
doing? Can we just go around the table and?
I think we did, it was.
We did 11.
It was 11.
Mhm.
11.
You
So-
said 8+3, but you just said 8+5 a minute ago.
But there's 4 people that want 8+3, so.
all right.
Wait,
All right, let's just take a good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 8 and 11. So.
Well, hold on, no, hold on. I
Oh,
think.
so when he looks at you, you do this.
No, I do.
That's what about
No, so here's what I don't understand.
inflation.
Excuse me?
Ladies, let's keep moving forward.
That's really unprofessional.
Yeah,
Ladies,
it is.
Sales,
7:35.
It's really.
All right,
Ladies and gentlemen, please,
Number
we've
one,
been at this for 2 hours, okay?
number one, I don't
Stay
appreciate
focused.
slide comment, that's number one, and you should know better than that.
So, excuse me, I wasn't
Please.
directing that at you.
You said my name.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here for a reason. The reason that we are here is to review the
Oh.
policies. Please, let's put everything aside so we can get through this, okay? So right now where we're at, we have on the table, we have 8 people, 7 are union, 1 is an assistant soup. And then right now, there's a total of 3 people. Right now, two parents, 1 community member, whatever that whatever's the makeup's gonna be. That was the one thing. Then we had 4 and 4, and then we
I said
had,
5.
now you said 5.
No, I said 5. I always had 5 community members of parents. I always said.
So 5 community members of parents plus the 8 from the bargaining unit, the 7 bargaining units in 1. So that's what, so I'm trying to figure out where are we at?
Switch to 5.
That's five.
5.
So right now, we're talking about 7 bargaining people,
That's
One-
interesting.
1 assistant soup,
Right.
5 people. The 5 people are a combination of parents. Then this becomes a question, is it parents and community members, or is it all?
Parents and community
Community
members.
members.
Community members can include parents.
Community members is the inclusive term.
I've never seen like such a fight to like keep the community out.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to keep the community out, I'm just trying to,
See,
I'm just.
Right, so what I
No, time out, let me finish my point.
I don't know, what I'm.
No, let me finish my point,
Okay,
because
go
I'm
ahead.
getting pissed, the simple reason
All right,
is this.
I'm
No,
not.
the
Go
simple
ahead.
reason is this, we said community, so my question is this. Do we want all parents? Do we want 3 parents, 2 community
Well, we
members?
just said community
So
parents.
that's what-
Numbers, parents.
So my question is this, if we say 5, if we get 5 people who have no parents within the school, are we okay with that?
If that's all
That-
that we get.
Why are they so bad? Like, I guess I'm not getting
No,
that.
I didn't.
But it's almost like insinuating, like,
No, but see, you're putting something into.
That's how it sounds. when you
But
say
you know what,
my
you're putting
mouth.
something into my mouth which I don't appreciate. I'm just asking a question, all right? Because if we're looking for individuals to be part of this committee, just like we did with the citizen advisory committee, we had diversity on that committee. we had people who did not have any kids within the school. We had people who had kids within the school. So there was diversity that was
Basically,
wonderful.
everybody that's so,
So-
I mean, it has the same net with this
So-
that we got
right,
with the
so-
distance budget, why don't you think we would get the same good turnout here than we got? I really think that if anything, we'd get more turnout, because this is like
Right.
more.
Why
like,
can't the board
something
decide?
relevant to more
The board will look
people.
through the applications.
Can we decide when we get the applications? It's the,
I mean,
we don't
there's
necessarily need to define it right now.
Other people.
Okay.
can
But-
resolve
It's
that.
not to put it out right now.
But-
Let's say 80, because remember, with the budget committee, excuse me, it's just, we set a number and we got more people and we took them all.
Right.
So let's just see what we get.
Look, it's not a bad thing to try to get more community members to buy into this district. That's not a bad thing.
No, I know it said it was a bad thing.
Well, I'm letting you know where my perspective
No,
is.
no one said it was a bad thing.
Alright, well,
So
It's so what-
considering, again,
we're
considering,
we're finished at 13, 7, 1, and 5.
okay,
Moving on.
with the application, are we gonna try to modify this now?
That needs to go.
Okay.
Why can't we use the similar application that was used?
Went out with the,
Citizen advisory.
Maybe we can, but I forget the language. If it's-
I don't remember language either.
Well, let's look at it. Let's look at that, let's look at this.
Well,
We need to do it right
the
now.
idea is the reorg is right around the corner, that's the.
I mean, maybe you just build it. Well, was there anything in the other application that you feel like is missing from this?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I will have to take a look at it right now and pull up in the computer.
seems there was more, something more.
Like, why do you wanna join? Why? I remember that.
Right, just.
Why, explain your interest in,
So then add.
or any like experience or skills you think would be relevant. to this.
Yes, thank you. I think that was on the other one.
Yes, yes.
Did we ask them?
You did.
Yes, I'm pretty sure we did.
I think we said, why did you want to join? I think that definitely was a
No,
question.
no, it was more specific. It definitely brought up
I
skills
feel like it was
and
both.
experience.
Well, they could have put it in.
Are you really worried about that question?
Do we really need list A's available?
We do.
So I'm trying.
We
We
know
we need
what's
to
going
know,
on.
we need to know their availability. If we want them to
Not at
serve,
this point.
we have to.
Well, okay, how about this?
I don't
Just a
think it's gonna be
question,
down.
why are you interested in being available? If someone wants us to know their experience, they'll include it there, if they, but that doesn't make anyone feel like. We should at least understand why we want it. Should be able
Okay,
to-
so just for. Maybe some people should, so just say what interests you in this committee or something?
Yes,
So, instead of just saying that the interviews are during the day, so do we, instead of saying list type days available, like say like.
Interviews take. place
Interviews typically
business
occur,
hours.
Well, that should be on the top,
something.
the top paragraph, as if they, like you said, interviews. You know, availability needed during the day. Right, that's all.
Well. Sometimes we will avoid it.
Yeah.
We got that.
So we
Do you
could
think
just.
that's-
Then get rid of the list that is available,
because
because,
department needs.
right, right.
Well, I think list days available and times available, okay, but then I think maybe at the top where it says appointment, saying day interviews. Like I just said, you know, these things, that's what.
Yeah, I would just say.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I would say interviews are conducted during the day. We need to be available.
So.
And we're crossing off staff. We're not?
Well,
Yeah.
Yes.
well, we didn't,
I mean,
why
no.
would we cross lots of that?
Yeah.
Maybe there's people that want to be included. That might not be chosen, that show interest.
Okay. Check
Well,
one.
then this eliminates,
Check one.
it takes away from a community member or a parent.
Yeah.
And the point is, you
Right.
want parents or a community.
Well,
member.
I guess like what I'm thinking is. If there's staff that's interested in, like even appointments, it's come to my attention that they might be interested in, they might not get. Appointments that they put in for multiple times, so we wanna give other staff members an opportunity if they're interested and they've chosen.
Well, if they're interested, they can express that interest with the collective bargaining
Right.
president.
I know the people have approached me outside of that to say that they do put in and they don't chose them.
Really?
Really,
Just say,
Okay, so
just leave this, right, like it's not, we can just leave staff.
so if you're a community, like, maybe you're both, and you just check one goal, I mean, you might be all three. Boom, 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 I got it. So,
but you have to be a resident.
I would say parent of a current district student, I mean, is that what we're, yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, we could, that parent of our student.
Um. And then at the top, a team made of equal parts community members and district staff, so we're gonna cross out equal parts. And we're gonna, yeah, like. Do we need anything else? We wanna say, tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean,
And you wanna
Well,
keep
yeah,
community
yeah,
members and.
yeah, like, you're just gonna have a name, I mean, so, right, I mean, we're not gonna.
I'm trying to find what we did.
Why are
for
you
the citizens
interested in this
work group.
position?
Why are you
Why are you
interested in this committee?
Right,
Why are you
You're
interested in starting on this committee?
But do you wanna keep a team made up of equal parts, you
No,
wanna
we're
cross
gonna
that
take
off,
it out.
community members and district staff, you wanna keep that, I don't know.
No,
why
we're
we
taking
keeping-
off here, we're taking off equal part.
No, I know, and why are we keeping district staff,
Because they're gonna be part of it,
I didn't know the staff, I thought we were just having the part.
Well, you could
for
take,
their staff.
but this is not.
But they're done already, we don't have to interview them for
where do
it.
you see that?
Must be a resident of the, well, hang on,
Well,
must be a
yeah,
resident of the Amityville district, like staff that's only a resident. Cause yeah, that could be staff who's not a resident.
Then you're already there, because you're a community member, right?
So
those are in
keeping
conflict.
staff down here, I'm confused here, I'm sorry.
It's a conflict, it says in bold in the middle,
Right.
must be a resident, but then it says staff, so.
Staff-
You're a resident, you're a
staff
community
should
member.
be there. Staff shouldn't be there.
Staff will be part of the.
Team made up of community members and
What are we
district
crossing out?
staff participate, okay.
Well, you do want the community members and the
Says parent,
parents to be living in Preston.
I would just say parent, community member, and
Well, you can
one
use staff,
interest.
but it has to be an Amityville resident.
So then we can just post this.
No, well,
Yes. Yes, they're a community member, yes,
The community
correct.
member.
we'll just take it out staff.
Yeah.
Is it a community member or parent?
Do you wanna put down address also?
Yes.
It's gotta be
Yeah.
proof of residency.
Somebody says they need to know. All right, are we all clear on these points? And yes.
Yep.
Yes. We're getting a deadline to apply, July 3rd.
Is there gonna be ample time?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just throwing a date out there, I mean,
But
again,
if
it's
we
just.
if we don't appoint on the real, they can be appointed later on.
On the
July.
15th or the.
Well, no,
Oh,
we just moved this.
well,
up.
we had a second. We are interviewing the central administrator, so not this committee. Come on.
Can I just,
Well, you have to decide, you wanna. You know, have a smaller net to get that
Right,
done,
no,
or
it's
like
not even, it's not even. a
this,
week.
Yeah, I think it should be done as soon as
And
possible.
it's a holiday week.
It's a holiday week.
It's a holiday week, I
Right.
don't want
I'm saying
something.
that
week after.
So maybe the deadline July 7th or
Yeah,
July 8th.
right after the holiday. What's that?
This is why this time is.
So July
That's what we
7th
say.
or July 8th, it should be at least 2 weeks.
2 weeks is July 10th.
Okay, July 10th.
And then if we, I mean, we could on the 15th, if we could just come together if we're all there.
Have an executive session.
No,
Oh, no,
it wouldn't
what
be
is the
executive
exec
session, it would be an action.
No, the deadline is July 10th, and the board has to make a decision of just selecting individuals.
And that would be an executive session.
John, would that be an executive session? Because they would have to discuss
If names were,
if names are reviewed that are applying.
The application process.
Yeah, yes.
It is, inquiring as to. Their children, certainly if a community member, you're going to be talking about children or their employment history. Right, so. Told me so there has to be something that you're inquiring in that is. Either employment history or with regard to their children, those questions are going to come up.
So I think they probably would if their parents were talking about where the kids are. Or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
and they do the executive session and then,
Yeah,
right.
so Lisa, then you're gonna have to notice that forum as having an executive session. So whoever the president is.
On the 15th, for the 15th.
So on the application it says list your reasons for.
What interests you in serving on these?
No, so from the, I was just taking from the,
Got it? Oh,
I was taking from the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee,
Yeah,
just to be
okay.
consistent,
No
list
problem.
your reasons for wanting to serve on the committee.
Sure.
Sure.
and when-
Now, just one quick question, on the Citizens Advisory Committee, it says briefly explain what expertise you'll bring to the committee, do we want that for this one or no?
No,
Okay, I'm just
keep it simple.
Unless you wanna put, is there anything that you would like maybe to know about you?
Well, that will probably be why they would wanna be on the committee.
Alright.
Is the, how about the application, submit application to?
Can there be a
Uh,
board, can there be a board, a general board email that says like Amityville BOE at. Amityville, whatever, and then that email be established and automatically forwarded to all board members. Forward that automatically goes, so somebody doesn't have to type in all 7 trustees' names. And I mean that for anything really, it's probably a good idea, it's just everybody gets the email.
You can, that can definitely be set up. We want it to.
So I'm asking, does anybody have an issue with that, or?
No.
I feel like just streamline it.
I'm just gonna
It's not very
say,
difficult to do.
It's not.
I'm just gonna
No.
say,
It's an
I'm just-
easy, it's an
yeah.
easy thing.
It's an easy thing. I do it in 5 minutes before I.
I'm just gonna say
Yeah, for
one
we-
thing, and on the last thing, just so my opinion on this is noted. I just wanna know, I'll just bring up the policy again. The policy in regards to the hiring process. I really oppose the fact that we've left it generic when it comes to. And when it comes to the language, the district adhere to practice including hiring and assigning personnel without regard to religion, creed, race, color, marital status, national origin, political affiliation, sex, sexual orientation, disability, and other status protected by federal or state law. I still feel that we should have something in our policy that addresses that we do seek to recruit for, diverse candidates within our school district. And I just think that it's something that we are a district that is predominantly Black and brown students who attend our schools. And I feel that we should address something in here that we do make an effort to recruit and promote a diverse candidate. So I'm not gonna, everyone has their opinion, but I think that we've made a huge mistake by not having some language like that in this hiring policy. Does not mean, and that sometimes the big misconception, that just because you make the statement of looking to hire diverse candidates, that means you're only gonna hire someone who is a certain diversity. So I'm just making a statement and I'll move on. Transportation of non-public school students.
So. I could say, I think the first one is the policy, which I don't think that we touched, that we just have to be readopted, so it has a current adoption date, there's the regulation that, that was written. And we reviewed this already, this is the second reading.
I would just recommend, and I did speak to the transportation director, to put in the lower limits as well. Okay, so if we put in eligibility just up to 17 miles, which there may be a misconception that they're entitled to transportation for shorter distances. Where it is authorized.
Where we put
Oh, I
that,
see.
So.
we
in
put
terms-
the,
in
we put
terms
the
of-
referendum in,
in terms
then,
of-
yeah.
Right, so we have so in terms
Last
of mileage eligibility, we will just put in what the minimum is, as with the max, we need the minimum also. And my understanding is the minimum, but currently saying that it's for policy.
So initial determination of eligibility, that section,
Right, so
It's
it's
the
right,
last-
so mild eligibility,
It's just the last page.
left,
Sorry.
right, so right now, you have the language of the proposition, but you don't have the minimum.
The half mile,
Yes, half mile, and miles,
miles,
similar, right? So for parents down there, right?
Oh, that's why I wasn't sure if we needed a separate. Like, for the regular, but control some students. 'Cause this
You
is
need
the
the
non.
non-school students, but this, but the
Oh, you
non-school
just put it in
students
here
also-
too.
So we
Yes,
should add
right,
that.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I spoke to the director, he's gonna provide us with that information, I don't think you need to go through another read, we'll just put that in.
Just put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
So adding the language will be added
And you'll provide it.
Yes.
regarding the minimum balance.
Now, is there, let me just ask you this, can we adopt this subject to that language, because the proposition kicks in July first, which is next week. So,
That's my,
so subject to, yeah.
yes.
So can we take a vote on that, Lisa?
I'm just finished writing my notes and you're gonna send it over, John.
Subject to including the district minimums.
Everyone has his note on that?
Yep.
All right, so. Any other things on transportation?
No.
All right, so if there's no other things on transportation, what we can do for policy number for 2B3, I'm gonna make a motion. Can I have a motion for policy, for 2B3, please?
What can we do on two and break?
Well, what if, so the motion is to accept it as final,
Well,
is that the motion?
Yeah, that, yeah.
Subject to.
When I get to that, yes. So the question is this, for policy number 9240, recruiting and hiring. Before I bring it for a motion, does everyone, I'm gonna go down the line, do you wanna do it as the second and final reading based on the changes that we have recommended? So I'll go back to recruiting and hiring, just to summarize, we're talking about a total of 13 individuals, 7 will be bargaining, 1 assistant suit, and 5 community members. Also on that same page for recruiting and hiring, on the last page, on the last paragraph, you take out the sentence notwithstanding the above, that comes out. And then on the second page, did I miss anything on the second page? On the second
We're
page.
just changing,
On
we're
the second
taking out
page, we'll
equal.
take out equal. Hold on. So the interview selection committee shall be formed consisting of. Community members to include parents and caregivers and employees.
So I think we should have the number.
The interview selection committee shall be formed consisting of 5 community members. Bargaining unit. Representation from each bargaining unit. And 1 assistant suit. We're happy, the committee shall not consist of more than. I have to change that. More than 13 people.
No, before two. How many union reps? 7? Sorry.
Seven.
Okay,
13.
sorry, I was thinking it was 8.
The
Okay.
committee may should not consist of, not of more than 13. Minutes. An application shall be posted on the district website and social media pages in addition to being emailed to staff and community members to solicit committee interest with a clear deadline. All applications shall be shared with the board. The Board of Education shall appoint the members of the selection committee on an annual basis to serve July 1st to June 30th. And then. All right, and then the next thing would be. The application, so everyone's clear, the deadline will be July 10th.
Lisa, did you mention, that on page 1, we're gonna be striking out the first line? I'm sorry, last line in the last paragraph?
Yes,
I know we said that, but just to say it again.
I did, I just,
Okay.
went over it, so. For the application, July 10th is the deadline. The language on the application would like to help shape the future of the schools, join the interview selection committee. Community members and district staff, actually just committee members. To participate in hiring decisions and interview for administrative positions, right? List your reasons for wanting to serve on the committee. For the information about the person, we have the name, phone number, email, and their address. And they have to check on the parent of a current student in the district or the community member. Alright,
Did you
And
say
then those-
the top interviews conducted during the day,
nope, I don't have that.
during business day, maybe?
Interview for the positions, and I'll clean up the language,
You know what?
will occur during business hours.
Right, we don't ever host an interview on the weekends, do we?
No,
Alright, it's Monday through Friday.
What about nighttime?
no,
Oh,
No,
because of
that
the
gets
employees,
complicated.
because of the employees.
Right.
yes,
Yeah,
during business
obviously,
hours
right.
and Monday through Friday. And then we have on the bottom still about listed days available and the times available.
Yeah.
Now for the transportation, for 8413, there's nothing with that.
Well, but we're gonna readopt it, right? We should readopt 8413, just so we have a new adoption date to show that we're gonna be
Right, but we're not,
changing it.
so my question is 8413 is 8413R.
Right.
So are we looking, I understand it, but are we looking to also adopt that tonight?
Yeah.
So we have to amend the agenda to add that as well.
Yes.
Okay, so 8413, there's no changes on that. 8413R. There will be language that will be provided to us that will state in regarding what is the minimum miles language.
Yes.
So everyone's clear?
Yes.
So now it's gonna go back. Can I have, well,
First and then.
so what I was going to say, I was gonna call for a motion. And that I'll do 9240 do separately, that for recruiting and hiring. That make this second and final reading based on the changes. That have been made this evening, or I don't have to amend anything.
It's subject to the changes.
Subject to
So
the,
you're adopting the policy.
right, subject to the changes that were discussed.
Adopting the policy as amended.
Alright, so can I have a motion
Motion.
to accept policy, and that's what I can do them both together,
To amend the agenda.
no.
I would do them separately because the other one has.
Can I have a motion, excuse me, can I have a motion for agenda item 2B2, which is policy number 9240. Which is to adopt the policy as a second and final reading as amended.
Motion.
Second.
Adopt the policy as the second and final reading as amended. I think I heard Winnie Commissioners first, Leslie Kretz is second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion. Oh, no, I'm a no, I'm sorry about that. 6 yes and 1 no. So I'm a no. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2B3, please? Which is policy number 8413, there were no changes to that policy.
Motion.
I'll just do Carol C. Hawkins first, Winnie Commissioner second, so discussion, there's no changes in that particular policy. All those in favor for 2B3?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda? To add 2B4. Which is policy number 8413R. As the second, no, is that the second?
This is the second and final. I think we did see it.
The regulations
I think we saw it on the meeting.
as the second
You want the policy.
and final reading. As amended.
Subject to inclusion of language by council.
Subject as amended, subject to inclusion of language by council. Any discussion on this before? call
Yeah, I
public?
just wanna make sure everybody understands that that the regulations included in this code 84th. Wait a second. Oh, no, that is under hiring and recruiting. I'm sorry, I have comment after, sorry about that.
No, I'm just amending.
No, I know, I made a mistake. I apologize.
Right, so this is just kind of a
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Megan, Westman, Winnie Castro, all in favor of amending to add 2B4.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2B4?
Motion.
Second.
Winnie Castro, was it Kretz? Any discussion on this?
No. Thank you to the.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Motion for agenda.
I just wanna add on 9240, so the regulation is encumbered in that, in the policy, so 9240R to be eliminated.
Is that true? I think you have to do that separately. Or the regulation is going to still be in existence.
Right.
And then.
Unless you rescind
What-
it.
So do I have to make a motion? Okay, can I make a motion to amend the agenda to, what would I say, Bob? I was
Rescind.
rescind 9240R.
To amend the agenda. To rescind. Policy. Number,
Regulation.
The regulation
Regulation.
92.
yeah, policy number 9240R. So motion to amend the agenda
Motion.
to add agenda item 2B5.
Motion.
So Willie Commissioners first,
Second.
Caroline Farren at the second. So motion to amend the agenda to add agenda item 2B5 to rescind the policy number 9240R.
Right,
Yeah, R is a regulation.
right, so it's not policy, right?
Oh, but yeah, we have it as. Okay. Policy number 9240 regulation. I got you. Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I saw. I'm opposed. Motion carries 6-1. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2B5?
Motion. Second.
Winnie Commissioners first, Caroline Fanning the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed. Motion carries 6-1. Right, we're down to old business. So quick question. Says transportation policy for public school students, is that?
I saw that as put on because this is, the one that we just did was
It's
not
not
public school. And I think just to include the mileage.
All right, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. All right, so, all right, so we're going to old business.
Okay, so we all have the org chart, if we still have stamina on us to get through the agenda. And as long as we talk about positions, we're okay, and right? You can talk about the organizational chart. So I had the question, I was wanting to understand the difference between a coordinator and a director position. And I don't, that's a question for you, John. Is it, if you want us.
Yeah, like what?
Oh, is it not a question?
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's some directors and there's some coordinators, so I just wanted to understand the difference.
It varies, so if you're talking about coordinator of transportation, that's a civil service title and position. If you're talking about director of facilities, that's a civil service title and position.
It's a, okay. So it's a coordinator and director, and they're both civil service title, so. Oh, they define the title is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And then, okay, so the same for coordinator of security?
No, in this case, well, Dr. Wade, if you can elaborate, for coordinator of security. This is not a civil service position.
No, it's not.
Okay, so we just defined that role, that title.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask something about the coordinator of transportation? Is there different positions, like a director of transportation and coordinator of transportation? I'm not saying in this district, I mean in general.
In civil service, there are various titles, but you have to have taken a test for that title. I don't know if director of transportation is the said title, but there are various positions in transportation, but you must be qualified for the title.
Must have certification. Is that what it
You
is?
must-
What is that?
Take the test, pass the test.
Okay.
And there are different requirements
Okay,
and different controls of the position, what the position can do and what it covers.
okay.
So when this is selected, we look at all of that to make it that meet what we're looking for.
For our needs. Okay, so I asked that question because at one point in time. There was discussion of having a director of HR, and then if I remember correctly, the concern was that. Then the director would be in the AAA. So,
Well, so you,
Oh, no, it's not-
you
it's not.
would make that person confidential. Right,
Okay.
so the individual in the position would be managerial in this case. So it would be. Something you'd have to apply to have that person as managerial, the assistant superintendent position is automatically exempt. So you don't have to apply for it.
okay. Okay,
So a director position in this case. Could be in the AAA, and so if you create that position and you appoint somebody to that position. You have to go take the extra step and make that position managerial. You have assistant superintendent, that is as per 35G exempt from civil service, so it's. You don't have to make that extra step,
okay, but it's not insurmountable.
It's not insurmountable.
Okay.
it's just it's just a different process.
Okay. Okay, so that was the first question I had, is obviously we have a gap that's not shown here. And could we instead have a director of HR?
So the director would be in trouble.
We've had director of HR before.
You've had
Right.
director of HR before, you just designate that position as managerial, and the person would
Right.
be acting,
Okay,
and that titles. So it's the person in the title.
Right, that's exactly how it was handled.
That's how it's in, but
Yes.
okay.
But
Was that?
I guess I
purpose?
misunderstood.
No.
that's not something for public employment relations.
What I don't remember, I'm sorry, finish your question.
No, it's fine.
I think for me, we're looking at. This organizational chart here, and we're looking at providing. From my understanding is some guidance to Dr. Talbot on how to reorganize. her cabinet and the people who are underneath her. And we've been provided with job descriptions for each of these positions. But we don't live it day to day. But we're gonna make suggestions or directions on how this structure should be set up. For me, that's concerning. One of the things that if we have abolished the assistant suit for HR position, and I shared before. This was done before, but we still had 3 assistant suit. And I don't remember the name, I think it was Data and Technology or something like that. And then the roles and responsibilities of the HR was disseminated out. I'm not too sure how they did it, but it was disseminated out. But there was no, I don't think there was a director of HR, I think it was just an assistant suit for data and technology. One of the key things that's beneficial with having 3 assistant suits that you can allow them to attend. And I may be wrong, I don't think the directors are allowed to attend like some of the cabinet meetings with the superintendent, I may be wrong, if I'm wrong, please clarify me. But more importantly, it allows for, if there's something that goes wrong in some of the buildings, you have someone at that particular level who can go to assist. So I'm just asking for us to think about our thought process here and what we are looking to do. What's looking to be done in terms of restructuring of this.
So yes, so can I go really quick?
No, go ahead, I have a, go ahead, yeah.
So I guess in that vein, and like, appreciate the discussion. I was thinking if the director of HR rolled up under assistant super curriculum, then maybe we could go back and look at a director of curriculum in E&L, which was identified as being a priority for the school district and, taking that assistant super role and breaking it into 2 director roles. Which would maybe alleviate some of the concern that you're raising about, well, in the past, we did it, but we had 3 assistant superintendents, but if we were able to identify then a place for a director of curriculum A&L. You had a title for the position, and I'm not remembering the whole title.
I think that covered.
Okay. Then maybe that could be something that was explored and would still be within what we've budgeted for the administration or central administration.
You're saying have a director of HR as well as the director of
Curriculum and E&O.
Budgeted for both,
Well, we had budgeted for an assistant super.
but that wouldn't cover the salary of 2 directors.
Okay, well,
I mean, the concept,
it
Sounds
covers
great.
some portion of it.
not a lot.
I mean, I think it'll cover a fair portion of it, but I agree that it won't cover both.
It won't cover a fair portion and it will not cover enough. So we have a budget in place. We now have 4 teacher assistants that we have kept on that have not been budgeted for to the tune of over $200,000. We have a settlement to the tune of about $800,000 that we have to pay out, half in this budget and half in next year's budget. We are looking at big ticket items that we have not budgeted for, and it's requiring some financial shifting in order to meet those obligations, which we have not figured that out yet. And now we're saying, let's do 2 directors in lieu of 1 assistant superintendent. And 2 directors is still going to put us Snyder, I'm picking your brain now. Would that be close to $100,000? I know you don't.
For 1 director.
Be over, 1 director's salary would be about 160 something.
I don't think it'll be that high.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
A director position.
No, a director does not cost that much.
Yes, they do. If you want.
There's, hold on,
That's
there-
what they're getting paid.
but there's a difference between a director and assistant
The
superintendent.
director of IT was 85,000.
I mean, I
Well, that was years
looked it
ago.
up today, Carol.
So if you're looking at a director of human resources, you're not gonna be able to hire a director for under $160,000.
I don't.
That's
think
on the
you're
low.
right.
That's on the low end,
The other thing
and
is,
then the benefits.
I just wanna say this, because I do have another commitment that I have to leave, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm leaving. But to take a position from someone who's been assistant superintendent to curriculum and overseeing ENL as well, and turn it into a director's position is just really not a very nice thing to do. And once again, sending the message outside of Amityville, who would wanna come here?
I am,
So-
so I, first of all,
So Carol, it's just-
everything doesn't have to be personal, this is business.
So wait a second,
You're
just-
making
wait-
it
wait-
personal.
Carol, just for clarification, just
What our
Just,
community.
just for one question, so I don't think they were gonna eliminate the assistant super curriculum structure. They
Oh, add
they
a
were
director.
gonna add a director.
Underneath
Okay.
there,
Just want
Which was
clarification.
what was
Thank you.
actually desired at budget time, so it was underneath the assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction.
I just
But
think
I wanna
that,
clarify that.
yeah, I think that, just as my perspective. With the restructuring, I think it's a good conversation to have. It's a conversation that I think Dr. Talbot needs to have with her cabinet. To also look at what model best would work for them. If it was two director positions, to be able to say to us as a board, the reason that I want two director positions are dot to dot to dot. This is how it could enhance our district. So that's just my perspective on it. And then also, when you do this, who's gonna oversee what? So if you have the assistant soup for finance and operation overseeing X number of people, you have the assistant soup for curriculum instruction overseeing X number of people. I'm not too sure in the direct positions who they're allowed to oversee. So that's something that would have to also be determined as well. So I think it's a good conversation to have, but I don't think it's something that we're gonna settle tonight. And I think if it's something that we wanna look at Dr. Talbot saying, can you provide us with some additional suggestions on how else this can be formatted? Then whether it's formatting with two directors, formatting with the data and technology, and really looking at what will be best for our district, number one. Giving us some more information about the course of these two positions, the director of the E&L, the director of HR, because there seems to be difference of opinion about how much that, what the positions will be paid, and provide us with evidence. This is the evidence of the course of these positions, so that's what I'm just saying that.
I feel like we all knew that we weren't gonna finalize any, reconfigure it today, but it was the beginning of the discussion, so that we would go back and forth over. However long that it takes to go back and forth. And in that vein, that. We are transitioning away from syntax, holding the website, but I'm not saying yes, definitely, like you said, like you need numbers to go with it, but is moving away from Land Rover something that would make sense and pull it back in-house? That all of those network engineers, like pointed out during budget season, is $1.5 million. So is that something now that maybe we aren't fully able to support? Maybe not even adding something back in, but maybe it's something that we aren't even fully able to support. My other questions, I guess, would be, does the administrative assistant to the super, should that be a confident?
It is a confidential.
Oh, it just wasn't.
It's just not-
wasn't noted, so that was just a question, and then was the confidential secretary of suggested in the business office, that's not. Either it's not identified on here, or we didn't have a confidential.
There is not a confidential there now. There is a need for a confidential. That office requires one. So we have to go through the civil service process to transition.
Okay, so we would transition one of the existing positions?
Well, we have two for HR right now, listed.
Oh. Well, I.
And HR needs two.
sure needs to, so we would have to hire somebody
No,
else.
we have someone. We have someone. We just have to go through the process of making
To
the
establish
confidential.
them. Okay. In the business.
Yeah,
Oh, so they're not
Oh,
showing the
so we-
schematic, you just know who the person,
yes.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm sure, everyone can jump.
I just wanna jump in here because, you know, the board does have the overall responsibility for management of the district. And we do have the authority to establish, abolish, or consolidate positions for reasons of economy and efficiency. So what we're doing is just looking to see how to make the district run better, to streamline things and be more efficient. It, you know, we're here to help things run better and to oversee and be management for this. So to say that we don't, you know, things should not be personal. I think that that's definitely something that happens here, you know. This isn't about feelings, this is about making the district run smoother, be efficient, get everything done correctly. I'm happy to hear that you're doing, are you doing that now, Dr. Talbert, of working through that confidential? Is that in the process for pay, for the business office?
We are presently doing that prior to the board requesting the job descriptions of everyone who works in district office. We had already requested that information because we were looking at each position to see how we can build efficiency among the existing staff. So we had already requested this information, then the board requested it, and now we're really at a standstill, so to speak, because during the summer months is when we were looking at the layers of where we were. Now, in terms of directors, we were not looking at that because the budget has passed. We will be looking at that for 26, 27, right? To restructure. Initially, I brought a director of curriculum in ENL. That was on my
Yes.
initial list.
Yes.
It's needed, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of finances, we are now looking at decisions have been made and settlements that must be paid. Construction managers that need to be engrafted in. Those are priority areas that we are looking to see how we can finance those. Anything that was not in the budget, we're not looking to implement right now because it's important that this is year 3 that we will be going into. Year 1 was a $3.6 million deficit. Year 2, digging ourselves out of that. Year 3, stabilizing. Year 4 is the year for program and initiatives. Year 5 is a relaunch. So right now, it's very important that every decision we make, we understand the financial implications of those decisions. Is it wise to make a move with technology at this point? No, it is not. We have adopted Infinite Campus. We're finalizing our real first year. The first year was a pilot. We're now in the second year with Infinite Campus. These technology technicians are very embedded in that process. We are also merging Envision and aspects of ASOP. They're very involved in that process. We've just started Timepiece as a mechanism to decrease the number of timesheets in the business office. They're very involved in the implementation of Timepiece. Unplugging that knowledge and that history that is there would not be a wise move for us operationally right now.
Okay, so I guess you're saying like, we probably can't put a director of HR. Right, like you're saying like, we can't do anything right now.
Well,
Maybe we can rearrange responsibilities, but we can't,
I'm not saying that we can't do anything
we
right now.
can't put a director.
I'm saying that in a district where we already have deficits and gaps and operational issues. Mary Stevens would be the only assistant superintendent, Snyder, interim superintendent for set time. And a third assistant superintendent would help us to stabilize the district as we continue the talks, as you mentioned, about how to properly transition. I don't think any abrupt decisions would be in our best interest at this time.
Can I just jump in with something? So this year, like, the budget came in with a 2.4 million surplus, right? We had a surplus. So I know we're saying we have a tight budget, but weren't we told there was a tight budget last year? We had a $2.4 million surplus, and we got $2 million from the
That has
state.
not come in yet. And I
Right.
also explained that the 2.4 million was generated as revenue throughout the year because of Ms. Buatsi's work to increase revenue. We didn't start the year realizing that, oh, at the end, we're gonna have 2.4 million. That money was built, that revenue was generated. And that's how we ended the year in the black. It was much effort put into that.
But we also have $2 million coming.
That has not come in, and I've been cautioned about making decisions about money that has not arrived.
No,
It has not arrived. It will not arrive until about September.
Understood, but it is coming. It's in the state budget. I saw it, the line item in the state
Don't have
budget.
it yet.
So it's coming in and we have that. As far as an IT director, we need it. I mean, something as simple as we can't even get Zoom meetings working because we don't have the IT person on staff. It happens all the time. Community's upset our Zoom doesn't work half the time for the meetings. I mean, having an internal position is much better than having a third party. In my opinion, $1.5 million is a lot of money. And I think it behooves the district to have somebody internally.
Well, here, I'll just weigh in. So the only thing that, and I agree with you, Dr. Talbot, taking apart too much at the same time, all at one time, gives you this brain of knowledge, which I'm not really interested in going down that alley. But as far as this chart is concerned, district clerk, and I think that you gave us some information on that today, correct? And the board will be making a decision on our next district clerk. So that's something very, very important. That's something we can take care of, so we can get that to rest. As far as HR, I mean, I think we could do, I would like to see a director. We are budgeted $185,000 for 2025, 2026. So the money has been thought of and it is there. I think what you're proposing is to use that money for an assistant superintendent instead, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
To finish out the year.
Okay, so I respect that. I think we could possibly look at a director, and especially like you said. We don't, we have a lot of expenses that are coming in that may be not foreseen. So listen, I would love a data and technology person. We used to have one and it used to run a lot smoother. I would love to have someone here for E&L because Hispanics are the majority of our students. But for right now, the only thing I'm asking for, district clerk and HR director. That's what I'm asking for. And then if I could just ask another question, Dr. Talbot, and it might be better suited for your assistant superintendent for finance. Is that you mentioned this settlement that the board did with Honeywell and the energy performance contract. Can I hear from either you or our director of finance, I'm sorry, assistant superintendent of finance? Where are we proposing in this budget that it is coming from?
The line item, you mean?
The line item. I'm actually very interested in hearing that, about that.
It's gonna require a budget transfer, sir, to cover it.
Sure, what do you think?
It would come out of, I think there's a code for legal for claims, I'm just trying to find it right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I know you weren't prepared for that,
But
but
it's okay,
Alright.
I've been talking with counsel about it now for a while. Realistically, it could go into the legal code, I'm just thinking that there is a judgments claim, there it is, 1930-400, sir. Is the code,
okay,
What was that for again? I'm sorry.
1930, excuse me.
okay, and I'm sorry, I might be a little.
400, oh no.
100. Thank you.
Okay, and that's under insurance, BOCES admin. I'm sorry, it was
1930-400 judgments and claims.
Can I just ask a question? You just wanna know where this is coming from, so to help you determine the next step, is that?
I would just like to know where 800, is it, what's
No,
the amount?
Could you explain how it's being paid?
Transfer, sir.
Right.
The money's not in the code in 24-25.
Right,
Sure.
right,
So we're gonna have to put a transfer on the agenda in July to cover the
right,
first payment.
right, so I know it's being broken up into 2 payments, and roughly, what was that total again?
It's like 8 and change, like 700.
750,000. Does that sound
Well, I'm
right,
just
sir?
trying to make sure that, what is this, because it's kind of connect to what we're talking about.
Sure it is, because if we wanna have all these other things, but we're carrying this on our back, we all have to be aware of that.
Oh, right, I mean, I.
I mean, if you wanna add on other directors and things like that. No, which,
It's just throwing some ideas out. I thought we were just gonna have a conversation.
That's what we're doing right now.
okay,
Everyone has told me we can't afford everything. That's fine.
I got it, I'm sorry.
You
Can I just-
know,
I would just like to ask. Where do you propose or where do you see this budget transfer coming from?
I've been isolated, so that's an excellent question.
Alright,
Can we do that after, because this is like off subject.
this is very important.
But it's important, but it's not
Alright.
connected to the.
Alright, sorry.
Type of organization. I understand
Where
that,
are we gonna find $700,000 to $800,000?
But could you just explain that it's broken into 2 budget cycles?
I know it's broke, so we're more than part of it.
No.
The
Wait, I don't
accounting
know.
treatment for it yet to be determined by audit, they could very well say this to be fully, the 24-25 is an accrual.
Right,
The second half of the payment, it's a cash flow issue, we can divide it out over 2 payments, so I'm not denying that. But the full 750,000, I believe is the number, 778,000, forgive me. Is gonna require a budget transfer to cover it, and then.
it has to, sure,
Where is that coming from? We haven't isolated it yet.
okay,
Because the budget is tight. I've heard conversations about a projected surplus for 24-25 of 2+ million. That has yet to be confirmed also. There are still a lot of expenditures that come due in July and August for BOCES, TRS, pension expenses that are being projected by my predecessor. That I don't want to get too far ahead of our skis saying we have a $2 million surplus, because even if it's true, it's $2 million of legislative grant money, that's a one shot. So the question is, where's it coming from? I'll have to provide the superintendent with a proposed budget transfer within the next 1 to 2 weeks, sir.
that's fine.
And that'll be on a July agenda to cover it.
And I'm sorry, when does Honeywell want the first payment?
They got it already, sir.
This year.
They did.
They got it today,
Okay.
Thursday.
Yeah.
alright, so, I think everyone has provided some feedback on this. You know, my recommendation is that if Dr. Tal has already started to work on this, then allow her to give us some feedback on her suggestions. We provided some suggestions. And we'll continue to look at. What is the middle school instructor?
Okay, we wanted to provide the board with an update. The resolution that had come forth on June 4th for the cost of the first floor bathroom was $229,550 to renovate that first floor bathroom at Edmund W. Miles Middle School. And as an alt add-on to the project. So we've asked Mr. Snyder to present to the board 2 options, which we sent home to you all the other day. And if you don't have copies, I think we have copies for you tonight. To finish up the old business, which will also lead into the enhanced construction services under new
Okay,
business.
sorry.
this is the table of me. Both options.
Did I?
Yeah,
I think it's all together.
2 budgets, one with the add alternate and one without it.
Okay, there's just extra copies.
Okay.
Oh, is there an
I
extra?
can't even talk, I think it's. Just pass, put down the, down.
So this references the interior capital project at the middle school. Snyder.
No, I have it.
I think everyone has a copy. You need one?
We'll take that one back.
Okay.
So the first. We waiting for trustee Bill?
No, we're gonna.
The first page is the budget, I developed that does not include the first floor bathroom alternate. If you wanna just jump down to the bottom line, it shows that we have 174,000 budgetary surplus. Not included in that is $390,000 in allowances that are built into the prime construction contracts, and allowances are like extra money that helps the district navigate problems in the field like asbestos, unforeseen conditions. So this budget here is well constructed. We have enough room to take care of what are going to be unforeseen conditions. Even the architects acknowledge that we're looking at change orders for the project. If we came in stronger than we thought, didn't have to use all the allowances, and in fact had $174,000 surplus, we could potentially do the first floor bathroom, but we're not gonna know that until next summer.
Yeah.
I think it's likely, because I'm an optimist with construction, but the architects were pointing out even this morning about what they believe is going on behind the walls. And to be ready, but if we get, I'll call it lucky. And we can save some of that 390,000 in allowances, which is what the second page is showing you,
Right.
then we should be okay. There's also some credits, and you'll see the blank number there for casework. The board had correctly eliminated that alternate at an earlier meeting of 750 some odd thousand. There is labor built into the general construction and plumbing contract, and we have yet to isolate that number. We believe it's gonna be about 50,000, but it could be closer to 60. That'll help us get to that first floor bathroom if that is the will. of the
Can I
board.
ask you a question? How do you feel? Is it okay, Lisa, if I
Yes.
how do you feel about not having the casework that does the cabinets and the casework? I mean, what's the use of having all this new stuff and not having?
Been seeing the casework, so I don't know the condition of it, but
Okay,
I do agree that bathrooms
priority,
are needed. I don't know about the casework, but
No.
it's just my opinion. Also, it's the board's decision.
I mean, I did speak to, Tom, right? Mr. Galay?
Tom Smith.
Al Galena.
Al, I'm sorry, Al, and he said that, we really should have that. So I was just wondering if we could, right?
I think that what I can tell you is it was 750,000 for the casework, then loaded up for all the other labor. It was approaching 800,000. We already had a quote to you going directly off state contract installed from two vendors that were 400,000 to 500,000. So I think we're just gonna have to wait and see where we land budget wise, and if there's other opportunities.
To do
For other
something.
funding sources, I don't know what the casework looks like, I'm sure it's not the greatest shape. But
And all the bathrooms on the second and third floor, the bathrooms need to be done.
again, I haven't been in those bathrooms, but the assessment of them is that they're in.
What?
That's not even voted on.
No, I know, I'm just asking his opinion, that's
Okay.
all.
Yeah, I haven't seen them.
Okay,
I
yes,
haven't seen
okay. No, I
them.
know.
I was certainly told to look out for what we're gonna find behind the walls when they start breaking it down. Yeah, if the vintage of the building is gonna have house.
So I'm sorry, so the casework labor, so we didn't award the $750,000 alternate, why is there labor outside of that alternate? That's,
Why was it built into the prime GC contract? It's just the way the architect put it together.
Oh.
So in their 1,773,000, ma'am,
you
we're thinking, and this is the architects, where there's about 50,000 in labor to
You
install the casework.
you think that's like a credit of 50?
It's credit coming back to us. I know it's coming, I just don't know what it is.
What's the VCT 10 classrooms?
There are 10 classrooms, that's vinyl composite tile.
Okay,
That the tile in the room isn't in bad shape. I saw pictures of this from Mr. Galena.
this is, you mentioned, oh, maybe Al mentioned this at the podium.
I
the
think he
other day,
did.
that
I think he
it's-
did.
Okay, so
We
the,
were hoping that number was gonna be a lot bigger, but contractors saw it differently. It was $10,000, so we have
To
to
get a
decide.
credit.
Right.
it's hard to get a credit.
Yeah, we would take it, right?
That's- I don't know.
The tile in those 10 doesn't look bad, it's just not gonna look as new as the tile in the other room, so. The decision of the recommendation, maybe let's, all right, forget the credit, we'll put all new tile in all the classrooms.
The bathroom, the $229,000, like, can we just do like a facelift, like in the bathroom, just like,
That's what Al wants to do.
just. Because that, I mean, this is like gutting it, right? This is, you're talking about gutting
It's
it.
a full rip.
But what if we just did aesthetics? I know.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, what if we just did like the tile and just replace to make it look? Are you disagreeing with the need or? I'm
No,
sorry.
I just think, no, I'm just sorry.
Oh.
I think that there's a need for it to be upgraded. If we're gonna upgrade all the
Oh.
other bathrooms, I think that we should really work to upgrade that bathroom.
That's what I asked for the cost.
Yeah, no, but I thought you
Oh,
were just saying,
you-
I thought you were saying not to gut.
Well, I'm assuming the $229,000 was way more than I was thinking, just a woman's bathroom and a men's bathroom and a floor. So this is,
That's 3 prime contractors.
but they're doing a lot behind the walls and like, so, but could you just aesthetically upgrade it? It's,
It's what Mr. Galena wants to cost out to see what that looks like and maybe put it in. The budget or potentially leverage these funds in another capacity, so I don't know the answer.
so
but
maybe
Mr. Galena
something
wants-
we can think about
And
and
it's clear for me, what do you mean by just aesthetically, what do you mean by?
like just
facelift?
not got everything, just like the tile.
Just the tiles.
Yeah, the stains, yeah, but not like expensively, all the plumbing behind the walls, like all.
I'm sure they're gonna need it, they may, you know,
Well,
you never know, I don't know.
You have the cost.
So,
It's just a question, I
I just, I need clarification, it wouldn't be.
mean, places be able to pay for the whole 229, that's why I asked, but right now, it doesn't look like that's the right decision, so.
I mean, I get a little concerned because the plumbing, especially in middle school, well, a lot of our buildings is aging, it is old. And you know what, it's almost, it's a question, when you start a project, where's the stuff, I mean, if you do the nice tiles and all this stuff, and then you have a pipe or something rupture behind there. You're gonna have to dig up that wall anyway.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was just looking at a bathroom project and we didn't do the first floor bathroom, that's what I was looking at, like that,
No, it's fine,
right outside the cafeteria, I'm like, oh, well, that's the bathroom everybody uses.
I've been to
That's
the
what I'm
men's, it's
like-
very bad too.
And-
That's the men's bathroom rather
Well,
than
I
the gym's.
And I thought it was not embedded in its, I didn't think it was its own ad alternate, I thought it was embedded in an ad alternate with other work. But regardless. But the good thing is that we have a cost in here for construction management,
Yes.
so
So you wanna go right into that, if we may?
I think so.
So we, I believe the board's aware, I've been discussing with H2M supplemental service from them that was in their contract. To provide construction management in the field. I believe you have a proposal, everybody have one of these for
We're still on now.
yeah, more,
There more?
I have.
you need any?
Jim Johnson.
Here, some of them.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
John wants.
No, John says there after this.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
this is John's one here.
So. Our architect came up with the idea of 670 hours spread out over 2 summers, which is 18 weeks. To be on site, I think it averages out about 37 to 38 hours a week. Where they would be on
37,
site
38 hours.
37 to 38 hours a week. The assumption is there's 9 weeks in a summer, so it's 18 weeks in total. Divided by 670 hours gives you 37 to 38 hours a week of direct construction supervision by the architect. And the price of it is $125,000. We're not saying we're gonna use every single hour. Because there's some work that we might not need it, so we're gonna watch it closely, but. It really, given that they're gonna start next week, it's kind of the only option we have.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's T and M. It's like, you're not saying we're gonna use every hour. So you're tracking
I'm
it,
sure we could,
but it's not like. But so if we only use 500 hours, we're paying them by the hour, so you're saying, yeah.
So do we determine the amount of hours that we want in here?
The recommendation was 670, I view it as a not to exceed, that's the way I would implement it, and. not to exceed, because I don't think we're gonna need 37 to 38 hours a week. The 2 weeks as the construction winds down. And certain contracts, the plumbing and the HVAC leave,
Right.
the supervision requirements become less.
Right, okay.
So I think it's really, I wouldn't want to go over 670. I know Al doesn't feel that way either, Galina. And the architects think that that's the worst case. Once they close up those walls, the job will get easy.
Okay, and then it's all part of the $4 million.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
baked into both of these numbers now.
Right, their engineering and their CM. Okay,
Okay.
excellent.
That's
good
within the
news.
given budget.
Yeah, that's great.
So are there any additional questions on this?
So there's going to be walk on.
So I would have to amend the agenda to add an item 3C1, which is this resolution. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda to add agenda item 3C1, which is a resolution. The resolution whereas H2 Architects plus Engineers was appointed in connection with the Edmund W. Miles Middle School Capital Project, subject to an agreement approved by council. Hereinafter referred to as an agreement on November 16, 2022. And whereas the agreement provides for construction management services as an additional service, and whereas construction on the Edmund Miles Middle School Interior Renovation Project is scheduled to start on July 1st, 2025. And now therefore be resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves additional construction management services to be provided by H2M under the scope of the agreement as follows. Project manager, number of hours 70, total cost $20,650. Construction inspector, number of hours 600, for a total of $105,000. And question.
Motion, second.
Okay, let's, Winnie Canestro, Caroline Fanning. Any questions about this?
That was.
Yes.
It was-
I just want a clarification, John.
Okay.
The third whereas scheduled to start on July 1, that's. Okay, just checking.
I understand.
Snyder,
I think the 30th is walkthrough, so we're fine with it.
okay, all right, just wanted to confirm, thank you.
Right, all those in favor of amending to add the resolution?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C1?
Motion.
That's Wendy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Any discussion on the new business? So we already, did we already number 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, number 2,
We just did that one.
and we just said for the other policy, we just need the updated policy, bring the reading. So the transportation policy goes to public school students, we're just saying we need to bring it forward with the updated mileage, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's my
Yes.
understanding.
That's okay.
I'm gonna do that policy also with the miles.
Okay.
I have a couple of things, are you done?
Can I have one quick question before you get it? Did we set up a date for interviews for our district clerk?
No, I was gonna do that.
That's on your plan?
Yeah, but we could, since you're there, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, can we try to set one up?
So I was looking at maybe next week, July 1st and 2nd, but let me slow down. If we wanna do next week, July 1st and 2nd, that's fine. The key is this, the board needs to make sure that they go through all of these. By tomorrow, because that means first thing on Monday, calls have to be made. So,
Yeah.
That's right.
right, so if you wanna start the process. And just kind of see how many we will be, that we can interview, I would say let's go ahead and do it, and if we need additional day, then we can always do
How
it.
many applicants were there?
I don't know.
Lots.
Lots.
A lot.
So it's broken into the first ones are those who applied on OLOS, one internal candidate, and the rest are Indeed candidates.
So
Thank you, Dr.
what's almost third?
It's like, it's quite a bit.
Okay, that's good. That's good news. So we're asking that we
Then I,
respond by the end of the day tomorrow with.
I would definitely say by Monday morning, the absolute latest, because that would close can be made.
And we're not limiting the amount of applicants that we choose.
Well,
Okay.
well, let me ask this. Right, I mean, listen, how, are we gonna establish, hey, listen, 4 board members think that this person's good to interview, we're gonna interview them? Or what do we do if like one board member says, I'd like to interview this person, but no one else does? Are we gonna set some kind of parameter? Who gets interviewed and who doesn't based on? After that, we read their,
Kind of gave our like top 5 or 6,
Mhm.
and then we looked for, okay, which names kept repeating, and then,
okay,
you know, we brought in 2 or 3.
If I could add on that though, we did do that. We didn't have a ton of interviews. I would probably suggest expanding it to more than what we have. So that there is a.
You mean
choice.
There were not
Yeah.
many qualified, Wendy, either.
But no, I know, but there were some that maybe not everybody had, or one had that probably could have done it.
well, that's what's gonna happen, you know, if we have 30 applicants, we're very, you know, you don't get 30 qualified people, it just doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
So how about we look for like July 2nd as a date, because that, you know. It gives much
Yes,
confidence to do.
yes, I think that would
And
be.
then we, because we're hoping that we can appoint this person and they can be active at the rework meeting, that's like.
So you hear me stuttering.
I
So-
know, cause it's not,
I'm not,
like their first day is July 7th.
I'm not too sure. Let's kind of, so this is my thing. If someone has had no experience as a district clerk or whatever, for them to be up and running. And to be effective at a reorg meeting, they can be there, but I'm not too sure how effective they're gonna be. So
Looking out of these 30 applicants, some have some clerical experience, so.
And if somebody has to shadow, you want in charge of the both.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have, I have a couple of things, are you done one or no?
So
Yep.
July 2nd will be the meeting date, everyone,
Okay.
for the entities.
I had asked a question, these plaques, have they gone back up yet?
Plaques, I don't know about, the resolution stated the plaque from the high school. They have been prepping the wall, I had sent home a diagram to the board.
Yeah.
Back when, to let you know, the original location was not doable. So, they're prepping the wall for that location and it will be up by the deadline of June 30th.
I thought there were 2, are there not 2?
I don't recall a second one. I refreshed myself with the resolution and there was no mention of a second one.
That's correct, Dr. Tower, there were 2. I didn't know that the other one that's being mentioned was removed. I never saw it and I never saw it removed, so I don't know if it's there or if it was removed.
And you stated it was for Northwest?
My understanding is there's 2 plaques, one's the high school, one in Northwest.
Right, that's
What if we
correct.
want both of them?
Oh, no, I
The
would say yes.
resolution, she's saying only says the high
It
school.
only says a high school because I never thought that the other one was removed.
So do we need to do a resolution?
You don't need to do a resolution, that's your purview. You only need to request it.
Okay.
And
does
it can
anybody
be followed
want-
up if we have the plaque.
Small,
Okay.
get big and heavy.
It's been
All
spotted.
It's so big.
Can I ask why the original location is no longer suitable?
Snyder,
Figure out a place.
The original anchors that were put into the wall were covered and they can't find them without, I guess, punching through and trying to locate them. These plaques are very big and very heavy, so when they originally drilled the holes to put the anchors in, they were covered, I guess, with another tile is what was explained to me. And rather than break up the wall and try and find those anchors, not even knowing what condition they are. Facility, Mr. Galena said, let's move it to here where he has an easier ability to, and I think Dr. Talbot has the location.
okay.
Sure, I mean, I don't know why the old anchors would be covered.
Here,
I'm not sure.
All right.
Northwest Platte.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess you have to look at that too, if anything were removed or whatever. I can't recall this, so it's just a question. Did we end up appointing the record access officer into the reorg? I don't know if we ever called a meeting into that. Remember?
It's
we
gonna
talked
have
about
one.
that?
It was a part of Lynn's.
No,
Oh,
I don't think we ever called a motion. Should I call a motion? Maybe,
was John Reed following up on
because we needed a deputy record or access officer to receive papers or whatever, because we didn't have somebody there. I don't think we passed the motion.
The district clerks.
that? That was a part of her contract as well.
I
Yes,
believe,
but,
yes,
um,
she's here.
okay,
Um,
well,
Right,
So, but we should take care of that on the reorg.
yes.
okay, so it's okay that we,
Yes.
'cause-
It's
okay,
So
so
we won't, so
It's just designates, not always.
so the keys is starting July 1st, there won't be anyone, so is there
So
something?
should we do it now so we have coverage until the reorg meeting? Because we won't have anybody in place to receive papers or foils or anything like that.
Nobody will be.
Can we pass
Yes.
something tonight?
There should be a resolution passed to designate someone as a records access officer.
Can we do the assistant super finance and operation?
Sure.
So should I make should I make a motion to amend the agenda right now? To,
Designate the record.
see,
Hold on,
two,
no, it would be, under personnel.
and the
Right.
personnel,
Right.
okay.
So amend the agenda to add, hold on a second, let me I gotta get my paper all together.
Lucky,
Amend the agenda
to appoint, right?
to add
Or appoint.
BB1,
Oh, I see.
the appointment, and then you can tell me. Was the record access,
Oh,
was the record access or?
yes, records access. Is there Richard Schneider? Or finance and operations.
Mr.
as-
Richard Snyder.
Are these foils?
Yes.
Right,
What?
oils,
Talk about the
Peanuts.
papers,
Assistant soup, okay, with the. Okay. So amend the agenda add 3B1, the appointment of record access officer, Mr. Richard Snyder, assistant superintendent for finance and operation.
motion. Okay. And that's just for
That's
amending the agenda.
Administrator Caroline Fanning, so all just to amend the agenda. I can have a motion for agenda item 3B1.
Motion.
Second.
I have discussion,
Commissioner Caroline Fanning, go ahead, discussion.
just discussion. So during this time period, when we don't have anybody for 8 days. What is gonna happen to anybody that sends an email? To the clerk's email? Is it gonna be forwarded? How is this gonna work? Is
Can I
there,
just ask a question,
Yeah.
just clarity before you go
Sure.
further? Is this effective 7/1?
yes, I would say
Okay.
that.
Effective 7/1.
So do I have to modify the agenda, right? I have to modify the motion to make it effective 7/1.
7-1. That's what we-
Okay. Do you need a motion? Or we
No,
okay?
no,
We
No,
we're good?
no, yeah, we're good.
Okay,
So we're
moving
having
on.
a discussion, so
Oh, the discussion was, so now there's a time frame where people may be sending requests to the clerk. Where is that gonna go? Can't go into the abyss. What is somebody gonna be monitoring this? Is Mr. Snyder gonna monitor this for foils? How is this gonna work?
You mean at present, as in,
At July 1.
so
July
July
1 to
1.
to July 8.
yeah, well, July 1, we'll have to officially, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, Dr. Tom, we have to be able to monitor it.
Yes.
right now, they go district clerk.
Can you do email forward?
Yeah, we just.
Up to with those emails being forwarded to me, there might be things on.
That's what this was a
Yeah,
question.
maybe, I
Couldn't
don't
be
know.
just the FOIL email,
So who should?
unless,
Right, because there's other things you might.
Right.
Help with it.
unless, we can assign technology to extract the files and forward them. Or if the emails for the clerk will go to the email that you were
Like
talking
the
about.
board email.
And then the board.
And then the board
forwards
could
the-
forward it, signer, maybe that,
Oh, then we would get it first.
then we would get it, one of you could forward it.
But do we need to get the foils? So if we have a record access form, so they should go to, or should go to the record access. form.
But what I'm saying is right now it goes to the clerk, so how are we gonna get it to the clerk? Right, the board doesn't see it FOIL.
Why don't we ask technology just to extract,
Yeah, why did you say that to say that, right,
Yeah.
that's easier, so the board's not involved.
right?
Okay, moving on, we have to vote on. Vote on what?
That was a discussion, that was.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta vote.
No, we didn't vote on that last.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, all those in favor for the motion to amend the agenda to introduce.
No, we amended it, and then we were
Yeah.
approving it,
Right, just the
so
motion.
we already have a motion on the table.
Yeah,
Okay.
so already, so
Oh, okay.
we're
sorry.
voting for that motion for agenda to be on. Aye. 6-0. Now we're on to another discussion.
Okay, yeah, done with that discussion. The Zoom link from June 18th. We saw a statement go out that there was an error, but Zoom didn't report any outages that day, so I'd like to know the update on that.
So our tech department has been in touch with Zoom. They put in a help ticket through Zoom support. Our live stream in district was continuous on our end. We've tested our equipment to make sure that there were no glitches on our end. They were doing that again on yesterday. The proper procedures were followed by tech. It appears at this point, and I had a meeting today in hopes to have clarity, and we'll likely have it tomorrow, that there appeared to be a Zoom cloud recording issue. Now, Zoom reported issues out on June 16th, but not the 18th. So, as best it has been surmised, is that there was a Zoom cloud recording issue. We've requested the analytics for the Zoom, but we've not received those to date. That's the update we have.
Okay, thank you. The reason I was concerned is there was a lot of business, it was, I think they said it was 6 hours and change, right, how long the meeting was, there was a lot of information, a lot of deliberations, a lot of discussions. So I just wanna make sure we have on records, because hopefully this video gets up without incident and for anybody listening. So I just wanna highlight a couple of things that happened at that meeting. The board did pass a resolution to have a blanket approval up until August 1st for a late bus request for private schools that are within the 15 and 17 miles, because the statute limitation was up to 15 miles. The transportation proposition passed, extending it to 17 miles. And, if there's litigation, it would be expensive, so the board decided to allow late bus requests to be approved up until August 1st on a blanket basis. The other thing that was brought up, that I had brought up is there were throughout the year, there were continuous people coming up to the podium demanding that Northeast stay open, and how is the board closing Northeast? This went on a lot. A lot of them were not residents, but there was a lot of social media that the board is, how could the board do this? And just to be clear, this was not on the board's radar to close the school. It was not recommended to us. We weren't proposed with a budget to close Northeast, so I'm not sure where the rumor started, but the Board of Education was not closing Northeast for this school year, so I want to set the record straight. Lastly, I thought June 18th was going to be my last meeting, but here I am. I did read a statement. I think it's important that the statement go into the record. So I'm going to read it again so that it is on a recording. And so that there's a record of this. So this was at the June 18th meeting, so some of these things apply to June 18th. This is my last regular board meeting as my term comes to an end on June 30th. I want to thank the community for entrusting me to be your representatives and voice. In a year, we've changed the culture, bringing transparency and accountability. We've moved the needle. This year did not come without challenges. Having advocated on the outside for 4 years, I never anticipated how toxic and hostile it would be on the inside. Anonymous emails seem to be a part of the culture. These emails became increasingly more aggressive and vulgar in nature. We were able to change the culture on the inside once we received threatening emails against myself, Caroline, and Megan, warning us to fall in line with the rest of the board members and being told this is your final warning. Those emails now sit with the Suffolk County District Attorney, who has subpoenas to determine the sender. Ironically, soon after the DA took over, the board received an anonymous email apologizing, stating they didn't mean to come across as threatening. Strange, right? How did the sender know we received the emails threatening? Trustees are elected officials and have a responsibility to vote on all matters. Caroline, Megan, and I had dissented vote only to have an employee file a frivolous formal complaint against only Megan and myself, despite 3 of us voting that way. The allegation was baseless and provably false based on known public documented facts, yet this board forged ahead with an investigation into mine and Megan's vote. An independent investigator determined the allegations were unfounded and it was dismissed, but not before costing the taxpayers $40,000. As evidenced this evening, there is a culture that people do not live in the Amityville School District, frequently attend and disrupt our board meetings, making demands upon the board and reprimanding us. You'll hear them speak shortly, validating my point. The overall culture changes on the board with an engaged community and when trustees confront and expose the issues. I'm proud and I'm grateful to have served the students and taxpayers in this community. It has truly been an honor. My advocacy for the children and taxpayers of this community will continue from the other side of the dais when my term expires. I wish the district and board success, and I hope the focus will always remain on what is best for our students. Thank you for this opportunity.
Any other comments? Anybody? We have a motion to adjourn at 9:12. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Give me the input of non-agenda items, sorry. Give me input non-agenda items.
I'll go first. Oh, hi, Amityville Teacher Association President. Relative to the students and personnel, personal electronic devices. I still don't understand how it is that we got here. I understand the part about the second reading, which should be done in public. That's fine, no issue with that. But many of the questions that have been brought up are questions that you could have gotten from central administration. Whether or not there were locker issues, there was a survey, the board voted to not have a survey, not only a survey not go out to staff, but a survey not go out to the community. Now we're having input after the fact, when there is a deadline, about a survey and getting feedback, when we could have gotten that feedback probably back in May. I don't understand why that is. There have been comments about how it is that this is about policy and there's nothing personal, but it definitely seems that those are personal things that are happening here. So that's first and foremost. I don't know how it is that we're gonna get some of this stuff done, considering the fact that the last day of school is tomorrow. So we could probably send out emails to our staff members, but most of our staff members don't check school district emails. There's a reason why it is that the designees go through the collective bargaining precedents, is because if there is a PPS position, I'm not going to sit on that. I have never sat on a PPS interview. I defer to my special education department. When there was a principal opening in the high school, I deferred to high school staff. So I can't imagine that and I guess I should not, and I cannot speak for the other collective bargaining units. But I have seen different individuals show up for their respective units. Just like board members, those individuals are elected by a majority of their members. So I don't know how it is that it'll be any different, and that some of you say that you are representing the community. You're representing the majority of the people who voted for you. And it's the same thing for the collective bargaining units across the board. So that's number one. The other piece as it relates to the. As it relates to the recruiting and hiring. My question is whether or not, what is actually wrong with your current policy? Does your current policy preclude or prohibit community members from joining? Because I've been on committees where there have been community members. I think that that is an excellent idea because there should be community input, so parents, community members, whatever the case may be, should have some insight and see what's happening in terms of who it is that we're hiring. There have been many occasions when community members have asked for more diversity. Which I don't know how we are going to still look to accomplish that with the abolishment or elimination of 9240R. But I wanted to ask whether or not, instead of replacing your current policy with this one, if you could just make an addendum, meaning that all of the changes or edits that you have in this current document, why couldn't that be folded into your current policy? Unless you're trying to say that there's something wrong with your current policy. If there's nothing wrong with your current policy, I don't understand why you just wouldn't make additions to it, right? So that it would encompass whatever it is that the collective board wants to achieve. The Board of Education's appointing members to serve on the committee on an annual basis as from July 1 to the 30th. Depending on what position it is that is actually being posted, how could the collective bargaining units know which members would be best suited to go and represent those committees? So I think that we should kind of like look at that. As it relates to this application, are staff members filling out applications in terms of what their qualifications are or why they are serving on a committee? Or is this just for the community? Because I think it's pretty
Just the community, we took out staff.
Okay,
And that was my team.
okay, thank you, that's it, I'm good.
Can I ask a question?
No, not, go ahead.
I just wanted some clarification. I didn't fully understand when you said. Setting a 1-year time period from July 1 until whatever it was, June 30th.
No, saying that it's,
Yeah, can you just clarify that?
yeah, the language says that the Board of Education shall appoint the members of the selection committee.
Right.
On an annual basis to serve from July 1st to June 30th. So if you appoint them before you know what positions are actually up, then how do I determine which one of my designees go? Because if you're appointing them, you're appointing those people. You're not appointing everybody.
I think.
Is that just for the community?
Just for the community.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you for
Very
the
good.
clarification.
All right, very good.
Any other community input on non-agenda?
I just piggyback a lot of it, Fitz, Patty D. Question one was related to the agenda items. I just was questioning if the community should have had the flow chart that you were all referencing, because we did not. And in order for us to have made any concerns or comments on agenda items at the beginning of the meeting, we would have to have seen that. So I'm wondering why that was not part of the agenda.
Their names on it, we can,
Okay, we could have had one with names
I'm just
redacted.
saying that's how.
So,
So it makes it difficult for community.
John, is that something? Because it's a chart that's also online. Is that something that?
No, those names on.
So you can, personnel, I mean, this. Cable organization, you have names on it.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
a
think
post organization, and we
Yeah.
couldn't have commented on it prior to you discussing it. If we didn't see it, that's all I say. The second thing is, I would strongly encourage, I find it troubling, I'm wondering why. There wasn't a discussion about confidentiality agreements added to the policy regarding the hiring and community members. I think it's very sound to ask anyone that sits on those committees to keep everything confidential and at that table. And I have another question regarding the choosing of the community members. Is there any reason why applications cannot be numbered and the names redacted and the conversations and discussions and selection take place in front of the community? I ask this because the board chose not to, although I mentioned it prior to your discussion, put any parameters or framework or qualifications or anything, and almost as if you are choosing to not have any qualifications. And I feel that that then leaves you all wide open to, how did you pick these people? You didn't tell us how you were gonna pick them, then you went behind closed doors and picked them. And I'm very concerned. I appreciate not wanting minimum requirements. But I think you either need to have parameters that are public, or you need to have your discussions in public. Lest you are open to scrutiny that you probably don't want, you've had enough. Thank you.
So thank you, like, I don't wanna go back and forth with the board and whatnot, so can we just let the community have the input in those?
Okay, I'm gonna sit. I'm Deborah Lee. I sit before you today as a proud resident and alumni of this same district. Deeply concerned about the lack of diversity among our staff. Our student body, predominantly comprised of brown and black students from North Amityville and East Massapequa, deserves a teaching staff that reflects their background and experience. I'm appalled as I sit here tonight that a particular trustee would be offended by language in policy 9240R, which aims to promote diversity by actively seeking qualified candidates from underrepresented groups. This policy is crucial in addressing the current imbalance where minority teachers make up less than 20% of this district. Eliminating 90-20-40 would be a step backwards, disenfranchising our students and community once again. Research clearly supports the benefits of students being taught by teachers who share their racial and ethnic backgrounds, leading to increased learning and meaningful connections. I please urge the board to reconsider and reinstate policy 90-20-40R. We need policies that prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, not undermine them. Our students deserve better. I'm not sure how that became an agenda item today. I don't know why is it that someone will feel offended by asking for diversity in our hiring staff. I've worked here for 21 years. I walk into the buildings, less than 4 people that are professional staff work in the building. So to have this policy replaced with something that someone just came and created is mind-boggling. I don't know how one person is able to determine the needs of our community. That one person does not represent my community, my family, or our needs as minority people. Why is this allowed for one particular person to start something and then everyone agree with it? This is enough. Enough is enough. Why is this happening in our district? The district consists of mostly African American and Hispanic students. So to remove this, all we're trying to do is get qualified minority educators in our building, in our school district. So to delete it is really, doesn't make sense. I think it's just appalling and disgusting.
Any other community comments on non-agenda items?
Hello. Margot Howard, I am the newly elected Vice President of Grievances for the ATA. Just a week ago, my colleague Matt Rice stood before you and stressed the importance of collaboration in order to achieve the shared vision of success that we all seek for this district. While we may disagree, some more passionately than others, about which paths to take to get there, I do truly believe that ultimately we all have the same destination in mind, which is why we spend hours here every month. 2 years ago, we began our school year with the theme of collective efficacy. Morale was extremely low and buy-in from faculty and staff was close to non-existent. Over the past 2 years, the ATA and the AAA have worked tirelessly to address these challenges, support student achievement, and rebuild trust across our schools. Admittedly, we haven't quite gotten there yet, but significant movement is being made in a positive direction. Together, we've proven that when those closest to the work are part of the decision-making process, we can drive real positive change, especially when we keep our collective vision in mind and do not simply disagree for the sake of disagreement. This is why the recent determination to move forward with the devising of policy in response to the New York State cell phone ban without formal teacher or administrative involvement by disregarding the Google form we collectively agreed upon, only to, now that the school year is over, move forward with a similar process anyway, somewhat concerning. Not only are we directly impacted by this and how the policies are rolled out, we are also the ones responsible for upholding them on a daily basis, which is quite a challenge. Action taken either without input from those directly affected or disproportionately from those that are not necessarily misinformed, but perhaps not entirely aware of, or as consequence by the intricacies that the implications of these decisions may have, is not just misguided, it's detrimental, and has the potential to unravel the progress that our bargaining units have made in building a cohesive, collaborative educational environment. It also implies, whether intentionally or not, that expertise, experience, and insights as to what is best for students from those who spend a significant amount of time with them are not as valued in the very decisions that shape these daily practices. This approach risks creating confusion, inconsistency, and potential conflict within our schools. More importantly, it compromises the integrity of the instructional practices by introducing policies that may be disconnected from the practical realities of our classrooms. So I am grateful that garnering additional input was revisited this evening and will be taking place in the near future. It is of utmost importance that we ensure those directly involved are a part of these determinations and that their expertise is thoughtfully taken into consideration, not just for the sake of upholding existing procedures, but for the sake of what is in the best interest of the students that we all serve. We are ready to continue to do that work calmly, professionally, and together.
Thanks. Any other communities?
Yeah, last, sorry. It was,
Hold on.
okay.
Go ahead.
Last meeting, I asked about the resolution that was put forth to eliminate second and third year mentors. I have not received anything back as it relates to that. I did indicate that that is a provision that is outlined in our contract. So, there is obviously a need for further discussion. If not, we were just going to have to go through our regular channels. To my knowledge, I do not know how it is that a board can eliminate any provision that is inside of that is covered under a teacher's contract without any type of negotiations.
Any other community comments? Have a motion to during the meeting. No, it's been set up. Motion.
Second.
Yeah, first, one second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Motion will be married. We just.